Thank you. So, yesterday, if you remember, we have discussed the concept of agriculture sector. These are the articles that I'm supposed to give you this week, right? I hope you remember today is Friday. So, as usual, Friday, I will be giving you a list of the articles. So, this is a list of the articles. Please go through that. Okay. Now, coming to the point, yesterday we discussed agriculture sector. Okay, we discussed agriculture sector. And in agriculture sector, what we have discussed, if you remember, right, basically the points of discussion were we have covered the concept of MSP in agriculture, correct? We have covered minimum support price, not yesterday, but day for yesterday. Some of you who have missed yesterday, day for yesterday's class, now will ask me, sir, where did you cover MSP? Day for yesterday. So MSP we have covered a day for yesterday, right? Yesterday we started with the concept of other areas in agriculture sector, that is agriculture credit. The idea of agriculture credit, right? What is short term credit? What is a medium term credit? What is a long term credit? And for what purposes the farmers will take short term, medium term, as well as a long term credit. Then certain important reforms associated with agriculture credit. For example, we have discussed concept of priority sector lending, PSL, priority sector lending. After that, Kisan credit card, KCC, Kisan credit card. And after that, the point of promotion of the regional rural banks, the small finance banks, etc., etc. After that, we have discussed the warehousing concept in India, idea of warehousing or storage concept in India. Why do we require warehousing or storage? Warehousing or storage is needed for a very simple reason. We need to ensure there is a smoother supply, right? Constant or continuous supply is there. We need to ensure that there is sufficient food grains so that prices will get stabilized. We need to ensure sufficient food grains are there for distribution purposes, and we also need to ensure that we will have buffer stocks. We will have buffer stocks. So these are some of the reasons why we generally go for warehousing and storage. Okay, after that we have discussed the concept of the Food Corporation of India and committee recommendations. So Shanta Kumar Committee, right? A Shanta Kumar Committee. Shanta Kumar Committee. What are the recommendations? So Shanta Kumar Committee has stated that Food Corporation of India, in any state where the state government has already provided a lot of infrastructure, no need to provide this additional services. It becomes a duplication. So hand over these services to the state government. Then the state government which announces bonus over MSP, we should not, right, procure more than sufficient food, more surplus food grains from these states, right? We should prioritize MSP procurement for pulses as well as oil seeds, etc., etc. So these are the recommendations of Shanta Kumar Committee. After that, there is this concept of technology, right? Before technology, we have discussed other aspects also. I'll come to that. We have discussed introduction of technology in agriculture sector. For example, I've given you certain types of technology we are using, right? For example, ENAM, right? E-National Agriculture Market. ENAM is very important. Why? If you basically check the current affairs, there's a lot of discussion regarding ENAM. ENAM was introduced by the government in order to promote interstate as well as intra-state trade of agriculture commodities. That was the whole idea. The argument was the APMC model. The APMC model that was implemented by the government, by the state governments, of course, did not provide a lot of benefits to farmers. Rather, the farmers who are the cultivators were not earning sufficient amount of money. Multiple licensing requirements were there, etc., etc. That is the precise reason Government of India introduced the concept of ENAM, wherein we would be connecting the mandis together. Wherein we would be connecting the mandis together. The mandis would be connected. That methodology, right? The technology we are using to create a platform, connect mandis, and trade these agriculture commodities over these right online platform is called as a e-national agriculture market. Apart from this, in technology, we have also discussed, and before ENAM, we have discussed APMC. I hope remember we have discussed APMC. Okay. Now we have discussed APMC, Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee, right? Why should we set it up? what is the advantage for the farmers, what is the advantage for the buyers, etc., etc. Then, in case of technology, we have discussed the liquid, that is nano urea, nano fertilizers, correct? We have discussed nano fertilizers. What is the advantage of nano fertilizers? We will be producing nano fertilizers in the domestic market. Import dependence will come down. We'll be able to export it, right? That will provide us a lot of benefits. We'll be able to save, right, forex reserves, etc., etc. Then, in technology, we also have discussed silos for storage. Silos for storage, right? Silos are nothing but infrastructure, that is certain infrastructure that is created for warehousing purposes, for storage purposes. These are larger, these can store more quantities, etc., etc. That are the advantages associated with silos. Done. So these are some of the technology that we have discussed. Then we have discussed a food processing sector. Food processing sector. Point number one, what is food processing? It is basically converting from one form to another form. Okay, very simple. It is basically converting from one form to another form, right? Food products, or let's say output in agriculture sector, we are going to convert from one form to another form. But in the process, we are going to increase the value and also increase the shelf life of the product. Now, what is the need for food processing in India? One, the per capita incomes have increased, as a result of which the preference for processed foods also has increased. In case of India, there is a lot of population, right, which is below the age of 25 years, and the preference for processed foods is very, very high. Third one, by promoting food processing, we'll be reducing the wastages, and we'll also be able to export more and more, because India is one of the largest producer in many of these agriculture commodities. Right, many of these agriculture commodities. For example, milk. We are one of the largest producers. In case of fruits and vegetables, we are one of the largest producers. In case of cereals also, we are one of the largest producers. So that is the reason why we are promoting food processing in India. Then, what has government of India done in order to promote food processing? Right, basically, we have discussed multiple schemes. For example, Pradhan Mantri formalization of micro enterprises, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, under which we have discussed mega food parks as well as cold chain infrastructure, the PLI initiative, production linked incentive initiative. There is one more. We'll discuss that today. This idea of one district, one product. Right? I have not yet discussed that. ODOP, one district, one product. We'll discuss that today. Don't worry. Right? So apart from that, we have discussed many other aspects within the agriculture sector. Done. So this is in a nutshell what we have discussed yesterday. Let me go forward now. Today we'll have a discussion on industries. Today we will start the discussion on industries. Now, in case of industries, what we will be discussing, we will have a discussion on industrial policy. Right, the most important industrial policy is ELPG reforms. After that, we'll have a detailed discussion on the concept of disinvestment. MSME sector. We'll also have a discussion on aggregates such as IIP and ICI. Next, we'll have a discussion on services sector, and certain very important reforms we will discuss. For example, I'm pretty sure all of you heard of Make in India. Make in India, right? We also have heard, I'm pretty sure you've heard of Startup India. So we'll discuss these very important reforms under this chapter. Okay. Now, let's start. Let's start. Point number one, Industrial Policy of 1948. Industrial Policy of 1948. Now, what is this idea of an industrial policy? Post-independence, there was this argument that government of India should bring in a policy so as to promote industrialization. Although many of the books, many of the experts agree that there was no formal document as an industrial policy, but government announced a policy back in 1948, which we today call it as a industrial policy. Now, what was proposed in the industrial policy? Point number one, we proposed the model of mixed economy. We proposed the model of mixed economy. Now, what do you mean by mixed economy? Please go back to my first class, right? I believe today is my 19th class. Please go back to my first class, 18th or 19th class. But I'm pretty sure we have seen the idea of a mixed economy. Sir, where have you discussed mixed economy? If remember, Earlier, we made a comparison. We made a comparison between capitalism, socialism, and mixed economy. First class. We made a comparison between capitalism, socialism, and mixed economy. And what do you mean by mixed economy? In mixed economy, we will see certain goods or services, certain factors of production under the control of the private sector, and certain factors of production under the control of government. That is, both the government as well as private sector will decide what to produce, how much to produce, whom to sell, in which market to sell, at what prices to sell, etc. So the central problems of the economy, the answer to the central problems are given by the private sector as well as the government. That model is called as a mixed economy. So back in 1948 itself, I repeat, back in 1948 itself, Government of India had announced that we would be following mixed economy. Now, point number two, there was a discussion, should we go for nationalization of industries? I repeat, there was a discussion whether should we go for nationalization of industries. Nationalization means what? The ownership would be transferred from the private sector to the government. Government at that point of time had decided, okay, no, let me not go for nationalization at least for next 10 years. I repeat, government at that point of time had decided, let me not go for nationalization at least for the next 10 years. And third, because we propose the model of a mixed economy, now how the industries would be divided, in which sector government would be present, in which sector private sector would be present, in which sector both would be present, that classification had to be done. And that is the precise reason under the policy of 1948, under the first policy after independence, government decided the industries or classified the industries into four categories. My recommendation, please by heart it. Government basically proposed to divide these industries into four categories. What were the four categories? Category 1, where only government of India would have a monopoly. Monopoly means what? Only government of India would open industries. For example, railways. Please think of it. Until very recently, who would be operating railways in India? Let me know. Start participating now. Until very recently, not now. Today, railways is not under the complete control of the government. Today, even private sector is allowed. Right? Even private sector can operate trains in India. But until very recently, can I say only government of India had the monopoly over railways? What about telecom sector? Until 1990s, only government had the monopoly. Defense, arms and ammunitions, etc. So argument was simple. Certain sectors, only government would be opening up the industries. That is the first category, solely under the monopoly of government of India. Second category, there are certain private sector entities who are already present. In these sectors, private sector entities are already present, but going forward, if government of India wants to open up, they can simply enter into this sector, can open industries. Further, private sector will not be allowed to participate. Whatever is there, they will be allowed to operate at that point of time. So second category, it was called as a mixed sector. Private sector, which is already present, we will allow them to continue to operate. But in the future, if a new unit is required, production has to be expanded, then it has to be done only by the government. Private sector will not be allowed now. Third one, government regulated sector. Government regulated industries. What do you mean by government regulated industries? Private sector was allowed to operate. Government was not present. Private sector was allowed to operate here, but they will come under the regulation of government of India. They would strictly come under a regulation of government of India. Right? That is basically the third sector. And fourth category. What was the fourth category? Any industry that was not classified in 1, 2, 3. I repeat, any industry which was not classified under 1, 2, 3, now it will be kept under fourth category. Any problem in this? Many of you start asking me, sir, what is the example of fourth category, etc., etc. Cooperative sector, right? What about agriculture sector, etc.? All of them were kept under the fourth category itself. So I'll repeat a concept here again. Very simple. Do not complicate it. Please keep it simple. Please do not complicate it. Right? Category 1, monopoly of Government of India. Monopoly means what? Only Government of India will operate. Category 2, private sector, which is already there in the industry. We will allow them to continue to operate. But in the future, if a new unit has to be set up, a new company has to be set up, private sector will not be allowed. Only Government of India shall set it up. Third one, third one, only private sector as of now. Government will not be present in the third category, only private sector, but government will regulate them. The guidelines, the laws, etc., will be made by Government of India. And finally, the fourth one, whatever is not there in the first, second, and third would be classified as fourth category. Whatever is not there in the first, second, and third would be classified as fourth category. Right. So these are right. These are basically right the four categories of industries which were classified back in 1948. Can we go forward? Do not complicate this classification. It's a very simple classification. Do not complicate it. Now, IDRA 1951. After 1948, in 1951, Government of India came out with a Regulation Act. Industries Development and Regulation Act of 1951. Now, what do you mean by Industries Development and Regulation Act of 1951? Point number 1. Government of India stated that all the units, all the industries which were covered under this act, now any company which is operating will have to be registered with Government of India. I will repeat the statement. All these industries which are covered under the act, any unit, any company which is operating in these industries, now you will have to be registered with the Government of India. Point number 1. Point number 2, now because you are registered with the government, if government will impose a certain regulation to you, if government will provide certain recommendation to you, you do not have any option, you will have to follow it. You will have to follow it, you will not have any option. But some of you will simply say, sir, I'm a private sector company. Why should I follow government regulation? I will not follow it. Government will ask me to do something, I will not follow it. In that case, what will happen? Government would simply say, if you do not follow what I guide you, if you do not basically follow what I recommend reforms to you, then I will simply take over the management of the company. I will simply take over the management of the company, means I will take over the operations of the company. I will not allow you to continue to operate. Third one, while getting permission from the government, while getting the license from the government, if you have given a wrong information, look at this. If the company has acquired a license by giving wrong data to the Government of India can simply cancel the license. Government of India can simply cancel the license, right? That power was there. Next, government will have regulations over, government will have control over at what price you are allowed to sell. If government wants, they can regulate that. Government will have control over how much production you are doing, how much goods you are supplying, etc., etc. The powers regarding control, right? That is a supply control, distribution, prices, etc. The powers were given to the central government under Industrial Development Regulation Act. Then, if you want to do any kind of activity, sir, what do you mean by activity here? Imagine I'm a private sector company. I want to expand operations. I want to increase my manufacturing. Before I do that, I will have to take a license from the government. I want to acquire one more company. I'll have to take a license from the government. So these kind of regulations, prior permission requirements, you will have to take a permission of the government. Only then you will be allowed to conduct this kind of a business activity. These kind of regulations were imposed by the government under Industries Development and Regulation Act of 1951. Now, why this is important? Please understand. IDRA, right, in the first industrial policy of 1948, lot of space was given to private sector. Meaning what? within industries, lot of these industries, we allowed the private sector to operate. But slowly and steadily, you will see that government of India will change many of these policies, bring lot of these industries under the control of government of India. And final, right, the most important industrial policy that you will have to remember is the industrial policy of 1956. Whatever industrial policy I'm discussing, all of them are important. In India, many policies have been announced. You do not have to remember all the policies. Many policies are there. The most important ones are first one 48, second one 56, and the third most important one is 1991. The industrial policy, very famously referred to as liberalization, privatization, and globalization policy. That is very important. I'll come to that as well. So industries, under industrial policy of 1956, the industries were divided under three categories, under three schedules. Please observe now. Please make observations. Rather than by hearting, make observations. It will be easier for you to remember. Schedule A industries. Most of the important industries were categorized under Schedule A, which came under the tight control monopoly of Government of India. And now look at how many industries were brought under Schedule A. Compared to earlier, that is industrial policy of 1948, very few were kept under the monopoly of Government of India. You remember this slide? Right? Very few were kept under the Government of India, such as arms and ammunition, atomic energy, and railways. Now this list expanded to cover 17 industries. It was expanded to cover 17 industries. You can imagine to what extent government extended its monopoly over industries. And the reason was industrial policy in 1956. Now many of you ask me, sir, why? What was the reason? Why did government of India shift to the industrial policy in 1956, where most of these important industries were brought under the control of the government? The reason is very simple. If you remember your high school, I'm pretty sure you would have read about 5-year plans. Correct? Let me know. Anybody who is there in the classroom who says, sir, no, I've not heard of 5-year plans in India. Right? I'm pretty sure in your high school, you should have come across the planning. Now, the 1956 is known for one 5-year plan. That is second 5-year plan. Very famous. The 1956 to 1961, it is known for second 5-year plan. Second FYP. And the second 5-year plan is also known as Mahalanobis. PC Mahalanobis. Mahalanobis plan or Mahalanobis strategy or heavy industrialization strategy. I have not discussed planning. I know that. Please don't worry. Next week we'll have a discussion. Have patience. We will have a discussion on planning next week. Now the argument was very simple. Under the Mahalanobis strategy or heavy industrialization strategy, we wanted to promote industries in India. What kind of industries? Very large industries. Very big industries. Right? For example, please tell me coal industry. Please do let me know. In case of coal industries, what will be your investment? Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, investment will be very less in the coal industry? What output or production in the coal industry? That will also be very high. Or for that matter, steel industry. What about steel industries? In case of steel industries, don't you think investment will be very high? Output will also be very high. Generally, these are called as heavy industries. These are referred to as heavy industries. Heavy industry simply means where investment is very high, output is also very high. So the argument of second 5-year plan was that we will go for heavy industrialization. And if you ask me, sir, why should we go for heavy industrialization? If you go for heavy industrialization, such as a coal, minerals, right, a steel, shipbuilding, civil aviation, etc., don't you think creation of employment would increase? Right, production would increase, creation of employment would increase, right? So that would lead to better outcomes for Indian economy. That was the precise reason why we adopted the heavy industrialization model under the second 5-year plan. Whether it worked out for us, whether it was a failure, What happened? Was there any problem, etc., etc.? We'll understand it later. But now, based on this information, please tell me, does Schedule A make sense to you? Does a Schedule A make sense to you? Right? Why Government of India took over the monopoly of all of these? All of you are able to understand it? Now, many of you ask me, sir, why not allow private sector to invest? All of this can happen even with private sector investment. But please think of it, you are talking about 1956. Please go back in history. You are talking about 1956. Do you think 1956, during 1950s, private sector was having so much money as they have today in India? Please think of it. And if you know about economic history, right, British economic history in India, did they allow promotion of private sector growth in India? Did they promote growth of private sector in India? No, there is a very famous statement. I'm pretty sure you'll come across this when you read modern Indian history. They'll say that Britishers converted India as a source of their raw material and as a right market for their finished goods. Correct? Have you come across this argument? Britishers converted India into source for their raw materials as a market for their finished goods. So rather than promoting industrialization, privatization in India, that was not their focus. Their argument was, we will take raw materials, we'll take it back to the UK's economy, we'll produce goods, bring it and sell it in India. Right? So that was the argument. So please understand the historical context as well. Don't say, sir, private sector could also have done it. That was not possible in 1960s. Right? We did not have such a huge presence of private sector as we have today back in 1960s. So the argument was very simple. Government of India felt that private sector, right, doesn't have the strength. Even if I give the sector or industries to private sector, they will run behind profit rather than looking at overall good for the economy, etc. That's the reason Government of India went for monopolization of all these 17 industries. Okay. Schedule B included 12 industries where private sector was allowed to operate. But if Government of India wanted new unit to be developed, then government would simply be allowed to operate even in Schedule B. Finally, Schedule C included all the remaining industries wherein establishing and development of units would be undertaken by the private sector. In simple terms, anything that was not covered under Schedule A and Schedule B was kept open in Schedule C, where private sector would be allowed to operate. Right? Anybody would be allowed to operate. For example, again, many of you will ask me, sir, any example of Schedule C category 4? Can I simply say agriculture sector? Please think of it and let me know. Can I say agriculture sector? In case of agriculture sector, private sector, right, or any individual, cooperative, agriculture and allied sectors always has been allowed in India. There has been no restriction or participation in the agriculture sector. Okay. So these are certain important provisions of industrial policy of 1956. Now, Third very important policy. Third very important policy. We have discussed two policies now. One is industrial policy of 1948. Second one is industrial policy of 1956. Now, please think of this and tell me, can I say the reason or the background to the growth of public sector organizations in India is the industrial policy of 1956? I'll repeat the statement. The reason or the background for the growth of public sector organizations in India, it is industrial policy of 1956. Because under industrial policy of 1956, a lot of these industries were brought under the monopoly of Government of India. And that is the precise reason over a period of time we have seen growth of public sector organizations in India. But please think of it, and it should not be a brain teaser for you. Do you think public sector, right, that is organizations owned by Government of India, do you think all of them have performed very well in India? Please think of it and let me know. Do you think all of them have performed very well in India? No, not all of them. Right? Some of them have performed very, very well. Even today, they are existing. And I'll take a current affairs example so that you can quickly understand. There are many public sector enterprises, such as public sector organizations, such as LIC is there, such as Steel Authority of India Limited, etc. which are making lot of revenue, which are making lot amount of revenue. But at the same point of time, we also have a public sector organization such as, all of you heard of this? BSNL? Let me know. All of you heard of this? Best example I'll take, right? Everybody will get related to it. Nobody will have any doubt. What about Air India? What about Air India? So I'm giving you two examples wherein Government of India, though has given monopoly to them. BSNL until 1991 had monopoly. Monopoly in the sense only telecom service provider in India. What about Air India? Till 1991, Air India was the air service provider in India. So, despite providing these kind of facilities, promoting these kind of organizations, doesn't necessarily mean all of them have performed well. Some of them have not performed well. And when these public sector organizations do not perform well, can I say it is a burden for Government of India? Burden for Government of India. Burden, right? Why is it a burden? Think of this, right? You are promoting, let's say, a company such as Air India. It is continuously incurring losses. So don't you think Government of India will provide financial assistance to keep Air India afloat? Correct or not? Right? If you ask me, sir, has Government of India earlier, not today, please understand my point here. Don't say, sir, why is government providing assistance to Air India today? Not today. Today, Air India is owned by private sector company. But in the past, because Air India was continuously incurring losses, Government of India had to provide financial assistance, package after package, to keep Air India afloat. Same thing has happened even for BSNL now. Government is infusing lot of money into these loss-making public sector organization. Now, can I argue that this is nothing but using taxpayers' money to provide funding for loss-making public sector organizations? Think of it. Government is using taxpayers' money to provide assistance to loss-making entities. So obviously there will be a criticism for this. There will be a lot of criticism regarding this. So over a period of time, I hope you understand, over a period of time, Government of India has felt the burden of these public sector organizations, right? Because some of them were performing, some of them are not performing. If they're performing, they will give returns to Government of India in the form of dividends. If they're not performing well, they're incurring losses, then Government of India would end up providing lot of financial assistance for these entities. So this has happened in case of India. No doubt this has happened. Now, if you ask me, sir, why is that happening? These are owned by Government of India. They should be working very well. Why is that happening? Simple argument to you. If you are the entity, no other competition is there with you. There is nobody else to compete. Will you focus on efficiency, or right? Will you be more relaxed in the market? Please think of it. Please think of it. You are the only entity, no competition, nobody to compete. Government will not allow anybody else to compete with you. Will you use the resources much more efficiently, or you will become more relaxed? Even if there is inefficient utilization, you will not be concerned. That is exactly what has happened. Government companies were burdened by bureaucracy, because government will appoint lot of heads in these particular government companies. If they want to operate, they will have to take the permission from Ministry of Heavy Industries. They will have to take permission from Ministry of Telecom. They will have to take permission from this entity, that entity, etc. So bureaucracy, right? That is one problem. Decision making will be very slow, very slow compared to private sector. Right? For example, in case of a public sector company, right? Today we have lot of powers given to them, but earlier, whatever they wanted to take in form of decision, they will have to prepare a report, give it to the ministry. It will go to under secretary, then it will go to joint secretary, then it will go to chief secretary, then chief secretary will discuss that with the minister, then they will allow you to take certain decisions. So decision making was very slow, right? Private sector is focused on profit, not same in case of public sector, right? Because there was no competition, etc. Lot of these public sector organizations started incurring losses. Please remember that particular point. Now, What was the situation back in 1991? What was the situation? Why did we go for one more set of reforms? One more set of reforms, which is very famously referred to as liberalization, privatization, and globalization. What was the reason? Let's try and understand. First one is Gulf crisis. First one is Gulf crisis. In the Middle East, two countries were fighting with each other. There was a war in the Middle East between two countries, Iraq and Kuwait. Before you start asking, sir, which two countries, etc., etc., Iraq and Kuwait. Now, please tell me, if there are two countries, Iraq and Kuwait, both known for supplying oil to the international market, will go to war with each other. Point number one, what will happen to supply of crude oil to the market? Think of it. What will happen to supply of crude oil to the market? Don't you think supply will suddenly fall down? And it should not be surprising to you when I say that just like today, back in 1991 also, we were importing lot of crude oil. We were importing lot of crude oil. So when supply in the international market will go down, prices will become very high and we will import it at very high prices. Now tell me, is the first point okay with you? First point okay with you? Now, lot of Indians, they were working in the Middle East. And when these countries are at loggerheads, fighting with each other, don't you think many of these people will be displaced? They'll be forced to move. They will lose their job. They will lose their hard-earned salaries, etc. So what will happen as a result of this to remittances? What will happen to remittances inflow that is coming to India? Don't you think remittances will start falling down? So on one side, our remittances started falling down. On the other side, crude oil prices increased, as a result of which dollars started flowing out. Now, please tell me, is first point okay with you? And in addition to this, point number 5 is okay with all of you? Is the first point as well as point number 5 okay with all of you? We started seeing that the dollars are continuously flowing out, and on the other side, the Gulf crisis led to reduction in inflow of remittances, and crude oil prices started increasing, imports started becoming very costlier. Let me connect it to current affairs. Let me connect it to current affairs. If you have read the newspapers, please tell me what has happened to inflow of remittances in India for the current year. Have you come across this article in the last 15 days? What has happened to inflow of remittances in India in this last 1 year? Can I say inflow of remittances in India are the highest today? Last 1 year, not just 1 month, last 1 week, etc. In the last 1 year, that is the total amount of remittances that have flown into India are more than $100 billion. Please read that. What is the reason? From where we are getting it? Suddenly UPSC can ask a question on that. You'll keep on thinking why UPSC is asking a question, because inflow of remittances are more than $100 billion, And tell me now, rather than earning through export, which is a two-side transaction, don't you think remittances are one-sided transactions? Think of it. You will export a good, you will get a dollar. You should export, then you will get a dollar. But remittances are one-side transactions. You are not exporting anything, you are not giving anything, but even then you are receiving dollars. So that's a reason. Don't you think remittances are very important? India is the largest recipient. I repeat, India is the largest recipient of inward remittances. That's very important for us. That's very, very important. In fact, let me add to one more current affairs point. Please read this article today. Of course, this was not there in today's Hindu newspaper, but today's Business Standard, this is a headline. Business line, it is there even in business line. What is the article I'm talking about? Yesterday, at least those who are seeing news or have a news updates like this, yesterday for the first time, don't you think rupee versus a dollar has fallen to historic low? Please think of it and answer. If you have not yet checked it, please check. Very nice article, very nice information, by the way. For the first time, for a very longer period of time, for the first time, Indian rupee has fallen against a dollar to more than 83 rupees, 83.1475. 83.1475. Now, many of you will be thinking, sir, why is the Indian rupee falling? Because we are going to become third largest economy. We are going to become this. We are going to do that, etc., etc. Even then, why Indian rupee is falling? My dear, please think of this and answer. China very recently has cut interest rates. Connect the dots. Please connect the dots. China has cut interest rates. Now, please think of it. If China cuts interest rate, what will happen to value of yuan? We have discussed all of it. If China will cut interest rates, what do you think will happen to yuan? Yuan will get, the value of yuan will increase or decrease against the dollar? Let me know. Value of yuan should decrease. Very simple logic. We have discussed all of this. If interest rates will increase, inflow will happen, rupee will appreciate, etc., etc. Apply that in China. Simple. Apply the same logic in China. So value of yuan will fall down. And if value of yuan will fall down, right, point number one, what will happen to India's imports? Against yuan, what will happen to India's imports? Don't you think India's imports will become, right, costlier now? Right? So import export logic will change now. That will happen. That will happen. Point number two, if Chinese yuan falls, automatically can I say the USA dollar has become strengthened? Correct or not? If Chinese yuan falls, the dollar has become strengthened. So remember, dollar has strengthened in the last 2 or 3 days. Point number three here, very simple concept. Point number three, with higher inflation rate, USA has recorded a higher inflation rate. With higher inflation rate, what do you think Federal Reserve in USA will do? Let me know. With a higher inflation rate, what do you think Federal Reserve will do in USA? Do you think they will reduce interest rates or they will start increasing interest rate leading to Fed tapering? Correct? Now there is a speculation that in the coming months there could be Fed tapering. Right? There could be Fed tapering. There's a speculation. Whether they will do it or not, you don't know. But there's a speculation that there could be Fed tapering. Just like you do not know what RBI will do in the next monetary policy, looking at inflation rate of 7% today. Right? So argument is simple here. Fed tapering is expected to happen in USA. Now please tell me, if Fed tapering will happen, money will flow into India or flow out of India? Think of it. If Fed tapering is speculated to happen, will money flow into India or flow out of India? Money will start flowing out of India. You will experience a capital flight. Now, all of these make sense to you? Correct or not? Does all of this make sense to you? Will it all have an impact on rupee value? Will rupee value start flowing down, going down? Will rupee depreciate? Of course, yes. Rupee will start depreciating. That is the precise reason, right? Yesterday it happened in the market. Today, multiple newspapers have this article. I did not find this in Hindu, by the way. I did not find this in Hindu. What was there in Hindu? Before I go forward, the usual exercise. In Hindu, in the business page, only in the business page, there are articles on inflation. There are articles on inflation. There are 2 articles on inflation. Read that. More than sufficient. And even both of those articles are not very important for UPSC. But what is a term that is important? Please do let me know. When we discussed inflation, did we discuss the concept of structural inflation? Let me know. When we discussed inflation many weeks ago, right? Scratch your brain now. Start scratching. Did we discuss structural inflation? And there are 2 students who say, no, sir, you have not discussed. Then do a simple exercise. Open the inflation PPT. Open inflation PPT, and there is one slide, the supply side factors which will contribute to inflation and demand side factors which will contribute to inflation. Check the supply side. There's a term called as structural inflation. Right? Please don't say that I have not discussed. If I have not discussed, I will only say I have not discussed. But we have discussed all of this. You need to just apply. Now, let's try and understand this. Point number 1, Gulf crisis. Inflow of remittances went down. The crude oil prices went up. As a result of this, our forex reserves started going down. Our forex reserves started depleting. Right now, at one point of time, the amount of forex reserves we had was basically sufficient to import goods for only 15 days. For only 2 weeks or a fortnight, sufficient worth of forex reserves were left for India, were left out in India. That is the reason we have discussed concept of BOP crisis. Correct? In balance of payment, we have discussed BOP crisis in India. Today we do not have BOP crisis. Back in 1991, we faced BOP crisis. Second point, fiscal deficit had increased to 8.4% of GDP. Is it good for any economy when your fiscal deficit keeps on increasing? Right? Please understand, if your fiscal deficit keeps on increasing, it simply means you are borrowing too much amount of money. Interest rates will be very high in the market. Private sector investment would be affected. But more importantly, your interest burden will also be very high. Interest burden will also be very, very high. Look at the interest burden. Annually, Government of India paid around 37% of the total expenditure in the form of interest. Today it is almost not equal, almost half of it. Today it is around 20%. Our interest burden on annual basis is around 20%. Around 20%. But at that point of time, our interest burden was around 37% of the total expenditure. So you can imagine to what extent there is a financial pressure on Government of India. Inflation rate was also very high. Many of the times it was in double digits. Inflation rate was in double digits. And on the other side, many of the public sector units, public sector organizations or companies owned by Government of India were incurring losses. Right? So these are certain very important features representing what was the situation in 1991, which prompted Government of India to go for set of reforms, very famously referred to as liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Now, what is this idea of a liberalization, privatization, and globalization? In short, LPG reforms. Let's try and understand this. We'll discuss a lot of current affairs here. Please listen to me very carefully. Liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Now, what is a liberalization? Point number one. Let me make a distinction first, and then we will have a look at individually all of them. Liberalization simply means the controls which were imposed by the government over a period of time, the controls have been removed. I'll repeat the statement. The controls which were imposed by the government over a period of time, the controls have been removed. Sir, what do you mean by controls? Let me give a very simple example to you. 1956 industrial policy. Can I say 17 industries were under the monopoly of Government of India, which means it is a type of control imposed by the government? Yes or no? Right? I said under industrial policy of 1956, most of these industries were under the control of Government of India, which means on these industries, Government of India had imposed controls. Only monopoly of Government of India was there. Now, what if I remove these controls? Can I call this as liberalization? Sir, how can you remove the controls? Let's take a very simple example. In civil aviation, only Government of India was having monopoly. Now, Government of India will say, no, only I will not have the monopoly. I will allow the private sector to operate. Can I call this as a liberalization, or else can I call this as deregulation as well? Let me know. Can I call this as liberalization or deregulation? I'll give you one more example. Until 1991, only Government of India through BSNL was allowed to provide telecom services. Now, post 1991, telecom policies have been announced. We have a telecom policy of 1994. We have a telecom policy of 1999. After that, we have allowed private sector to operate. We have allowed private sector to participate along with BSNL. Is it not deregulation? Is it not liberalization? So argument is very simple here. Whenever you talk about liberalization, we are removing the regulations. We are withdrawing the regulations so that private sector participation will increase. That is called as liberalization. On the other hand, what is privatization? What do you mean by privatization? Privatization simply means government will start selling the ownership of the companies. Simple idea. Government will start selling the ownership of companies. Right, sir? What kind of companies are you talking about? Have you heard of Air India? Let me know. Have you heard of Air India? Best current affairs example. Can I say Air India is the prime example of privatization in India today? Government of India has sold complete ownership. Complete. Not even partial. Government of India has sold complete ownership of Air India to a private sector company. So second one is privatization. Privatization simply means government is selling ownership. It is selling ownership to collect money from the market. That is privatization. Third one is globalization. What is this idea for globalization? Globalization simply means, right? Globalization simply means we are allowing the integration of markets, right? We are allowing integration of Indian market with the global market. Now, please tell me, if I allow foreign companies to come into India and start operating, produce, and we will export, can I say it is nothing but we are moving towards integration to the global economy? I'll repeat the statement. We will allow, let's take an example, Apple company. We will allow Apple company to come to India, produce the goods, and they will not only sell in the domestic market, we will also export it to international market. So we have attracted investment, we are exporting, right? We are also altering the course of imports. Is it not idea for globalization, integration of markets? Integration, right? Improved trade relations, improved flow of the capital, all of these indicate globalization. So one is liberalization, second one is privatization, third one is globalization. Let's go one by one. First one, liberalization. What is the meaning of liberalization? It means to free the economy from the direct or physical controls imposed by the government. Whatever controls have been imposed, whatever controls have been imposed by the government on the economy, these controls will be withdrawn by the government. That is called as liberalization. Sir, how can you say controls have been withdrawn? Let me give you certain examples. Try to remember at least 3 to 4. Try to remember at least 3 to 4. I've given you a lot of examples. Try to remember at least 3 to 4. First best example is industrial sector itself. Industrial sector, right? In case of industrial sector, earlier lot of licenses were supposed to be taken, right? That is boon that basically was born because of industrial policy of 1956. Lot of licensing requirements were there in India. Lot of licensing requirements. You want to do this, take a license. You want to do that, please take a license. You want to produce goods, take a license, etc. So lot of licensing requirements were there in case of India. That is the reason why earlier there was a term called as a license Raj. Do you remember this term? Anybody who says, sir, in the last 2 weeks, I have not come across this term in the newspaper. Let me see. Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, in the last 2 weeks, I have not come across this term of license Raj. Anybody? Right? Can I give you the context? Can I give you the context? Right? Basically, the context of Government of India introducing a new policy of taking licenses for importing PCs, importing laptops, etc. So this argument of licensing became very, very famous in India because of industrial policy of 1956. And Government of India basically said, I will do the licensing norm. I will implement licensing norm because I want to control the economy. I want to see who is going to import what, who is going to manufacture what. I want to keep a track of the licensing requirement. Right? That's the reason 1956 is also referred to as the policy which led to license Raj in India. License Raj. And license Raj has a negative connotation. Please remember, it is not a positive term. It has a negative connotation, negative association. Why? Imagine you're a bureaucrat who is supposed to issue a license to private sector companies. Please tell me, do you think the method will be very transparent? Think of it. Do you think the method will be very transparent? Can there be a bias? Can there be a favoritism? Can there be corruption in the system? Can it delay, unnecessarily create red tapeism in the system? Can it affect the productivity of the economy? I hope you understand. I hope you understand all these are not good, and all of them are associated with licensing Raj in India. All of these are associated with licensing Raj, right? It led to a lot of corruption in bureaucracy. Again, please understand, I'm not saying everybody is corrupt. I'm saying it led to corruption in the system. Method was never transparent, never ever transparent, right? There was a bias, there was a favoritism. If a company which is right, which is very well known to the government bureaucrats, they would issue the license very easily to them. But other companies or other new investors, right, entrepreneurs, right, who are not willing to, right, pay any bribe, etc., they would simply delay the whole process, right? So that was basically the argument related to license Raj. And post 1991, this has been withdrawn by the government. Remember this. Many of the industries where licensing norms were a common thing, was very common, government of India has withdrawn a lot of them. Even for importing, lot of licensing requirements were required earlier. Even that have been withdrawn now, right? So even for conducting trade, lot of these licensing conditions have been withdrawn. And that is the reason now when government of India says, if you want to import a laptop, you'll have to take a license. Many experts argue that, then are we reversing 1991 reforms? Done? Right? Have you come across this argument? Are we reversing 1991 reforms? Are we returning to the licensor Raj? If you have read the newspapers, I'm pretty sure most of the articles were arguing the same thing. They were criticizing this licensing policy of government of India. Okay? So industrial sector licensing was abolished. Many of the industries which were under the monopoly of government of India, now it was opened up. It was basically opened up. Private sector could operate, but government of India from time to time, I repeat, government of India from time to time has kept some of the sectors under the tight control of government of India. Even when this liberalization was done, railways was under tight control of government of India. Nuclear energy was under the complete monopoly of government of India. Over a period of time, many of them have been delicensed. Many of them have been liberalized. And today, please remember this, it is the nuclear energy. It is the nuclear energy which is even today completely under the control of government. I repeat, it is the nuclear energy which is under the complete control of the government. But please tell me, are you coming across articles where government of India is thinking of allowing even the private sector in nuclear energy? Let me know. And if you have not read it, search in Google, you will get it. Today, government of India is thinking, can we allow even private sector in the industries related to nuclear energy? It is being discussed. It is being discussed. Please be very careful. Okay. Next, the markets were allowed to determine the prices. Unlike under Industrial Development Regulation Act, some goods which were reserved for small scale industry, SSI stands for small scale industry. SSI is nothing but small scale industry. Now, what is this small scale industry? Have you heard of MSME sector? Please do let me know. Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, what is this MSME? I've never heard of it. I've never even seen the definition of it, etc. So please understand, yesterday only I've given you the definition. Today we'll have a complete discussion. Have some patience. So earlier, we did not have MSMEs. Rather, we had small scale industries. Today, we have redefined small scale industries into micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, what is this? Goods were reserved. Earlier, please remember this. Earlier, certain goods were identified which were supposed to be manufactured only by small scale industries. I will repeat the statement, and the list was very long. At one point of time, more than 600 goods were actually reserved to be manufactured only by small scale industry. Sir, what do you mean by this? Imagine this bottle. Government of India will list this bottle as a reserved for small scale industries. Now think of this and answer, can Tata company manufacture this bottle? I'll repeat the situation. Please look at it. Government of India will classify, reserve this bottle under small scale industries. Can Tata company manufacture this? Can Reliance company manufacture this? Of course, no, it will not be allowed. It will not be allowed. Why? Now this bottle has to be manufactured only by the small scale industries. Right? Control. That kind of control was imposed by the government. And the idea of a small scale industry was promoted by the government, especially after 1956 in India. After 1956, right, government of India actually promoted a lot of these manufacturing to be done through small scale industries. But don't you think this is basically a wrong policy? You want the industries to actually grow. You want investment to increase. You want, right, you want employment to be generated, but through small scale industries. Right? Don't you think small scale industries are limited in production, limited in supply, limited in profitability, etc.? So if you simply say this bottle has to be manufactured only by a small scale industry, imagine you are the owner of a small scale industry. Will you invest beyond 1 crore rupee? Will you invest beyond 10 crore rupee? Will you invest beyond 20 crore rupee? If you invest beyond those threshold limits, if you remember the numbers, 1 crore, right, 5 crore, 10 crore, 50 crore, 50 crore and 250 crores, right? If you remember the numbers yesterday table, right? Imagine you're a micro enterprise. Imagine. Now I'm saying only you can manufacture this bottle. Please think of it. Will you invest more than 1 crore rupee in your plant and machinery? Will you invest? You will not invest. And when you will not invest, can you grow in size? Can you expand your operations? If you expand operations and go beyond 1 crore, you are no more a micro enterprise. You will lose that power. I hope you understand. You will lose that recognition of micro enterprise. Now you cannot manufacture the bottle. That is the precise reason. That's a precise reason. This policy, today, we do not have it. Today, we do not have it. Right? We have actually deregistered or de-reserved all of these products. Right? We have de-reserved all of these products. Now anybody can manufacture these products. But please remember this. When I say anybody can manufacture the products in India, can you manufacture liquor in India without license of government? Think of it. Take the current affairs example, you will understand. Can you manufacture liquor in India? No. Liquor related to space, right, related to hazardous chemicals, etc. Even today, there is a licensing requirement. Even today, there is a licensing requirement on some of these industries. Right? You will have to take a license, only then the government will allow you to manufacture, sell them. That is the reason. Have you not come across huge tragedies? Yes or no? Right, the huge tragedies, that is, right, liquor will be manufactured, right, not in a scientific way, right, inferior quality will be produced, lot of people will consume it because it is very cheaper, and lot of people will die because of this, right? But again, argument is simple. Some of the areas, even today, licensing is there. Most of the economy, no licensing requirement. Okay, next, in financial sector, what reforms have been implemented? Banks have been allowed to go to the stock market, right? Have a issue of shares in the stock market, raise the funds from the stock market. It is allowed today. Private sector banks allowed. Foreign banks have been allowed to come to India. Foreign institutional investors have been allowed to come into India and invest in the Indian market. All these are allowed today. Earlier, not allowed. Today, it is allowed. Next, lot of taxation reforms also have been implemented. Lot of taxation reforms also have been implemented. For example, there was a committee. Please remember this. There is a committee, Raja Chalia Committee. Very old committee. Now, today, do not worry about the recommendations. Recommendations were important back in 1990s. We are sitting in 2023 and you are going to write exam in 24-25, which means very, very old recommendations. So government of India set up Raja Chale committee And Rajachalli committee recommended lot of changes in the taxation structure in India. Lot of taxation reforms were implemented because of Rajachalli committee recommendations. Foreign exchange reforms were implemented. For example, do you remember this? Right, we have implemented a floating exchange rate in India today. Tell me, did we implement market determined exchange rates or managed a floating exchange rate before 1991 or after 1991? Let me see how many of you remember. Did we implement this before 1991 or after 1991? It was implemented after 1991. If you remember, we discussed, right, there was a liberalized exchange rate management system. And after this, LERMS, that is a dual exchange rate system, we shifted to concept of managed floating post 93 and 94. And even today, we are following managed floating. And before I go forward in managed floating, is it okay if I say RBI will intervene in the market to stabilize rupee? Let me know. RBI will intervene in the market to stabilize the rupee. Yes or no? Did we discuss all of it? And right, check it. Yesterday, RBI has sold a lot of these currencies to stabilize rupee. Yesterday, RBI has sold a lot of these currencies, forex currencies, to stabilize rupee yesterday. Why? Lot of dollars were going out of India. Lot of outflow of dollars. And that would simply lead to lot of depreciation of domestic currency. In simple terms, again, in simple terms, all I'm trying to say is, if RBI had not intervened in the market, if RBI had not intervened in the forex market yesterday, rupee depreciation would be much, much higher than 83 per dollar. All of you okay with this? If RBI had not intervened in the forex market yesterday, rupee depreciation would be much, much higher than 83 for a dollar. It would be much, much more. It could have even hit 84 rupee yesterday itself. So RBI has sold a lot of dollars yesterday in the market. Okay. Next, trade policy reforms. Import licensing was abolished. Export duties were withdrawn in order to promote more and more exports. So all these are some of the controls which were imposed earlier by the government over a period of time. Now, under the liberalization reform, these controls have been removed. That is the reason I said liberalization is nothing but deregulation, withdrawal of regulation over a period of time. Okay, now second pillar, second important pillar, liberalization is done. Second important pillar, privatization. Idea of privatization. What do you mean by privatization? Ownership of entities under the government would be reduced and more private sector, right? More and more would come under private sector participation. Right, I'll repeat the statement. Ownership of government of India in certain entities would be reduced and more entities would come under the private sector participation. That is the concept of privatization. That is the concept of privatization. Now, as a result of privatization, what would happen? What would happen? For example, government will sell, or sorry, government of India has sold Maruti company. Earlier, Maruti was owned by government of India. Modern Foods, there was a company by the name of Modern Foods that was owned by government of India, has been sold away. Imagine, it has not yet done, but imagine in the coming days, government will sell LIC to the private sector. If all of this is done, what will happen? One, public sector will contract. All of you okay with this? Public sector will contract. What do you mean by contraction in public sector? How many entities are owned by government of India? The number of entities will actually fall down, will actually reduce. Contraction. Second, disinvestment. That disinvestment will lead to revenue generation for the government. All of you okay with this? Disinvestment. What do you mean by disinvestment? Right? Basically, government will sell certain amount of ownership. Government will sell certain amount of ownership and generate revenue. Many of you ask me, sir, what is the difference between privatization and disinvestment? Please think of it. LIC. In case of LIC, do you come across the term disinvestment or do you come across privatization? Let me know. In the context of LIC, do you come across the term disinvestment or do you come across privatization? Right? Or else, in case of Arey Baba, please think very carefully. If you don't trust me, check the newspapers, check the Google. Right? In case of Air India, right, I will only say you will come across the term privatization. You'll come across the term privatization. Now, please understand this. Whenever you talk about disinvestment, it's a very neutral term. Very neutral. Neutral in the sense you might be selling 5% of your company to, right, the market. You might be selling 20% of your company. You might be selling 51% of your company. You might be selling 100% of your company. All of them traditionally will come under the concept of disinvestment. Although government of India doesn't agree, government says when I sell only small percentage of ownership, very, very small percentage of ownership, government says that is called as disinvestment. But traditionally, what do you mean by disinvestment? Any amount of ownership that you sell, any amount of ownership, that is called as disinvestment. For example, in case of LIC, government has not privatized LIC. I hope you understand. I'll repeat the statement. Government of India has not privatized LIC. Privatized means complete ownership given. No, Government of India has not privatized the ownership of LIC. Even today, more than 90% of ownership of LIC is there with Government of India. But only part of the ownership is sold in the market, right, through the form of shares in the market. Whereas Air India, please tell me, can I say Air India has been completely privatized by government? All of you okay? Right? In case of Air India, Government of India is completely privatized. Completely means 100% has been sold. Not even 0.01% is there with Government of India. So argument is simple. Disinvestment is a very neutral, general term. Where ownership is sold, money is collected. But privatization generally means ownership is transferred. Complete ownership is transferred. Right? That is basically the idea for privatization. So, examples of complete privatization in India are Modern Foods, Air India. Right? We also have the best example, right? That is Maruti company. All of you heard of Maruti company? The company Maruti Suzuki company, which manufactures Alto, right? Maruti 800, etc. Earlier, it was owned by Government of India. It was owned by Government of India. It was owned by Government of India. Today, it is not owned by Government of India. It is a private sector company. Okay, and whenever you go for privatization, the private sector participation in the economy, will start increasing. Right? These are certain things. Now, what is this idea of a right? Let's say the minority stakeholding, right, or a strategic disinvestment, etc., etc. I'll come to this, but before that, let me discuss government organizations. And before government organizations, anybody has got any kind of a doubt regarding what I've discussed so far? Please do let me know. Otherwise, I'll go forward. If nobody has got any kind of a doubt, I will go forward. And sir, money is not collected by government in privatization of Air India. Again, Air India was a loss-making company. Don't worry about it. But generally, whenever government will go for privatization, it means they are selling. And when they sell, they will collect money. What is meaning of transferred ownership? Meaning of transferred ownership is basically, right, rather than me controlling the company, now I will transfer the control of the company to you. You become the owner. You start, right, controlling the company. That is basically the idea of a transferring of ownership. What is full form of FII? Foreign institutional investment. Foreign institutional investment. Contraction of public sector once more. Imagine Government of India owns 100 companies. Out of 100 companies, they will sell 2 companies. Can I say number of companies under the control of government has come down? Is the logic okay? Number of companies under the control of government has come down. So public sector has contracted. That is basically the argument. Okay, done. So let me go forward. Okay, so government organizations are in 3 different ways. Government organizations, generally, we will have three different ways. One is called as a departmental undertaking. Second one is public corporation. Third one is government company. Okay, one is a department undertaking. Second one is a public corporation. Third one is a government company. Now, what is the basic idea? Many of you will ask me, even after I explain, many of you will ask me, sir, why? Why does government have these kinds of three types of organizations? Argument is simple. Please remember this. Government will decide we will have a department undertaking or public corporation or a public company or government company. Point number one, government will decide it. You cannot decide, I cannot decide anything. Government will say whether should we have a undertaking or a corporation or a public company. Instead of public corporation, they will also use the term statutory corporation. They will also use the term statutory corporation. What is the meaning of it? Have patience, we'll go one by one. But please understand the logic here. Point number one, what should be there? Should it be an undertaking or should it be a statutory or should it be a public company? Government will decide it, not you and me. Point number two, sir, on what basis does the government decide? Government will decide based on whether they want to achieve a social welfare objective, whether they want to generate revenues, whether they want to sell the ownership of the company in the market, or whether they want to allow private investors such as you and me to invest in a company or not. There are so many factors that the government will consider before right having a corporation, statutory company, or a public corporation, or even a departmental undertaking. For example, please think of it and tell me now, can you purchase the shares of Indian Railways? Are Baba, have patience. No, some of you people will never have any patience. Right, sir, explain the differences between all the three. Did I discuss all the three in the first place? Did I discuss all the three? No. But even now, sir, tell me the difference. Have patience. No. Right, you should have patience. Otherwise, there is no point. You are not listening what I'm saying. So tell me, can you purchase the shares of Indian Railways? Right, some of you are saying yes. My dear, Indian Railways, any shares are available. When I say Indian Railways, I'm talking about railways and not a company. Sir, IRCTC is available. Sir, that is available. Right? Is Indian Railways shares available in the market? No, IRCTC is a different company. Shares are not available for Indian Railways. Same argument. Despite I say whatever I say, you will never listen to me. So go purchase Indian Railway shares. Go purchase Indian Railway shares. Left to you. Go. Can you purchase ISRO shares? Let me know. Can you purchase shares of ISRO? Now again, some of will say, sir, but the company owned by ISRO is listed, etc. I am asking ISRO. Answer only for ISRO. But on the other side, can you purchase shares of Coal India Limited? Can you purchase shares of right Steel Authority of India Limited? Right? Of course, yes. So understand the logic here. Argument of Government of India is to what extent I should have control. To what extent I should have control over this. Should I have a direct interference, or I will set it up through right a public, I'm sorry, I'll set it up through right a act, or I'll pass a bill in the parliament, I'll set it up through act, or finally right not through act, not direct under control under me, I will basically list it in the stock market, the shares will be available, and the company will be acting like any private sector company. So based on that, government will have three different entities. Now think of it and please do let me know. Indian Railways. Indian Railways, can I say it is nothing but part of Government of India? Let me know. Indian Railways, can I say it is nothing but part of Government of India? Because there is a Ministry of Railways. Ministry of Railways. Ministry of Railways is nothing but part of Government of India. Right? So understand the logic here. Departmental undertakings are nothing but part of the government itself. They are part and parcel of Government of India. Right? And whatever funds are allocated to Ministry of Railways, is it not done as a budgetary exercise? Whatever funds are allocated for Postal Department, is it not done in the budgetary exercise? So direct intervention, right? No power there. Direct intervention. Government will directly intervene. Prime Minister wants you to do something in railways, you will have to do it. Right? You will have to do it. That is basically idea of a departmental undertaking. But come to the extreme side of it. Government companies such as a Coal India Limited. Do you think Government of India will directly intervene in the functioning of Coal India Limited? Please think of it and answer. Do you think Government of India will directly intervene in the functioning of Coal India Limited? No. Coal India Limited will function just like a private sector company. Right? They also have their own board. They will have their own authority. They will invest their own money. They will generate their own profit. Everything is done by Coal India Limited itself. That is the basic difference between a government company as well as a departmental undertaking. So government companies are listed in the stock market. They operate just like private sector companies. Right? They are operating just like private sector companies. Right? So argument is that. So Coal India Limited set up under Companies Act. Steel Authority of India Limited, right, has been set up. It is listed in the stock market. You can purchase the shares of these companies. I can purchase the shares of these companies. They will operate just like private sector entities. Right? Now, between both of them, between these two extreme types of organizations that government has, there's a third type. Between both of them, these are called as statutory organizations or public corporations, statutory corporations. What is the reason why these are called a statutory corporation? Point number one, these are established with government passing the law. Government will introduce a bill, get the bill passed in the parliament, and after this, these authorities are established. For example, Food Corporation of India. Food Corporation of India. Please understand this. What is the function of Food Corporation of India? It will come from FCI Act. It will come from the FCI Act. What is the power of FCI? It will be given under FCI Act. Right? Who will be appointed? What should be the duration? It will be given under FCI Act. So don't you think this public corporation is basically an intermediary, right? Basically a middle path between a departmental undertaking as well as a government company. Because in case of public corporation, government can basically ask the public corporation to do something provided it is already there in the act of the public corporation. Government will appoint people, government will allocate funds for the public corporation, etc. But remember this, to what extent government can interfere? I repeat, to what extent government can interfere in the functioning of public corporation, it is a lower compared to interference of the government in the departmental undertaking. And it is the lowest in case of government companies. It is the lowest in case of government companies because government companies act like, right, basically a private sector company. Right? So these are some of the examples. Please go through that. Do not complicate this. Keep it always simple. On one side, government will have complete control, part of the government itself. On the other side, extreme other side, government doesn't control them. Right? It will act like just like a private sector companies. But the intermediary between them is a public corporation which are established with the passage of act by the government of India, where basically government will have control but not to the extent that they have under the public undertakings. Done? Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? Right? So based on their requirement, government will decide what should be what based on their requirement. For example, LIC, Life Insurance Corporation. Until 2 years ago, Government of India did not list LIC. Government said, I will not list LIC in the stock market. Right? But in the last year, LIC has become listed company now. LIC is present in the stock market. But who is the majority owner? Majority owner of LIC, even today, Government of India. On the other side, Food Corporation of India. Can you purchase the shares of Food Corporation of India? Tell me. Right? Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, I can purchase the shares of Food Corporation of India. FC is not listed. FCI is not listed. It is completely under the control of Government of India. There is an act. Under the act, FCI has been established post 1965 in India. So argument is simple. In case of FCI, NABFID, even today, Government of India has the control over it. Whereas government companies, no, government will not interfere there. It is just acting like a private sector companies in the stock market. Okay, so these are the three organizations. Now, let me give you the idea how disinvestment is conducted. Let's go step by step. Please follow the discussion. You will have to follow the discussion. Point number one, minority disinvestment. Minority disinvestment. Now, do you remember the 51% ownership requirement? Let me know. We have discussed the number 51%. Why 51% is important, etc., etc. Anybody who says, sir, you have not discussed earlier, please do let me know. Right? Whenever you want to take decisions in companies, you need at least 51%. At least 51% ownership. Right? Two of you are asking, sir, where have you discussed it? In the financial market. In the financial market. In fact, I gave you a current affairs example as well. Right? I hope so. I've given it. I'm pretty sure I've given it. Right? What was a current affairs example? I said, in the last year, if you have seen the newspaper, Adani company took over the ownership of NDTV. Adani company took over the ownership of NDTV by purchasing more than 51% ownership in NDTV. NDTV is a listed company. I hope you understand this. NDTV is a listed company. So Adani company took over majority of ownership of NDTV by purchasing more than 51%. So 51% number is very important. Right? You require at least 51% to basically own, right, majority of ownership in a company. Okay. Now, sorry, this example was not given. Okay, I've given now. This example was not given earlier. Now I've given it. It's okay. And nothing wrong with that. Adani company has purchased more than 51% ownership in NDTV. And again, UPSC will not ask you which company took over ownership. Right? They will not ask you which of the following companies took over the ownership of NDTV. No, they will not ask you that. But 51% number, please remember that. Now, come to the point number one, minority disinvestment, minority stake sale. What do you mean by minority stake sale? I'll give a very simple example. Imagine today, don't worry about exact numbers, Imagine today, Government of India has, let's say, 94% ownership in, right, a particular company. And, right, tomorrow, government will sell 14% ownership of this and collect money. Now, even after selling 14% ownership, can I say, even after selling, government has a majority ownership in the company? Think of it. Very simple. Right? Imagine a company is there, 94% is owned by Government of India. They will sell 14%. Even after that, can I say government owns majority ownership? That is basically the argument. Whenever you say minority disinvestment, minority stake sale, certain amount of ownership will be sold by the government. But even after the selling of ownership, government will still own more than 51% in the company. This is called as minority investment, minority disinvestment, minority stake sale. Anybody has a problem with this? And the term minority is very famous. Do not imagine that minority stake sale is always associated with the government. No, no, my dear. Right? Very often, have you come across these articles? The promoters are selling minority ownership in the market. Minority stake sale is being done by the promoters or the owners in the market, etc., etc. So minority simply means you will sell certain ownership, but after that also you will have more than 51%. That is called as minority. Now please think of it. Instead of 14%, if government will sell 25% ownership, can I call this as a minority stake sale? Think of it. Instead of 14%, what if government will sell 25%? Even then, government will continue to own more than 51%. Still minority. Okay, because majority is with government, minority is with other investors. Come to the second one, strategic. Strategic disinvestment. What do you mean by strategic disinvestment? Imagine government will sell ownership. They will sell ownership. And as a result of this, government's ownership will come down and government will lose the management control to private sector. Government will lose management control to private sector. Sir, any example of this? Let me give you an example here. Let me give a very simple example. Today, Air India, 100% ownership was sold by Government of India to a private sector company. Okay, today, Air India, in case of Air India, 100% of the ownership has been sold to private sector company. Now, before that, Government of India had proposed, right, one thing. Government of India had stated that we will sell 74% ownership to a private sector company and I'll continue to own 26%. Please think of it. Before 100% was sold, before that went through, earlier Government of India had put out one more proposal. Government would be selling 74% ownership and will continue to own 26% in Air India. If this was actually done, can I call this as a strategic disinvestment? Think of this. If this was actually done, can I call this a strategic disinvestment? That did not happen. Private sector company said, no, why should I give you 26%? Why should you own 26%? No, we will not agree to that. That's the reason 100% was put on the block, 100% was sold. But is it okay if I say this is nothing but strategic disinvestment where government will sell ownership, but more importantly, government will give away the management control over the company. They will not have any way, any control, management control, decision making power will be given to private sector company. That is called as a strategic disinvestment. Next one, complete privatization. Complete privatization. A type of strategic only. Complete privatization means 100% ownership will be given away. Simple, 100% ownership. In case of strategic, can I say certain ownership will be still there with government? But in case of complete privatization, 100% ownership will be given away. Government will not have any kind of ownership in the company. That is called as a complete privatization. That is called as complete privatization. Examples I've given here, please have a look at it. The best example in the current affairs is Air India. 100% of Air India has been sold to private sector. Then there is a cross holding. Listen to me very carefully for cross holding. Listen now, please listen carefully. Imagine there are two companies owned by the government. Okay, imagine there are two companies owned by the government. So Government of India has ownership in company A and has ownership in company B. Now, what if Government of India will sell the company B to company A? What if Government of India sells company B to company A? Now, please think of it. A will purchase a company B. Who is the owner of company B? Before sales is happening, who is the owner of company B? Owner of company B is Government of India. So, company A will purchase company B and the money for company B, will be given to Government of India. All of you okay with this? Let me know. All of you okay with this? This is called as a cross-holding structure. This is called as cross-holding structure. The advantage of this is, why does government go for cross-holding? The advantage is very simple. Can we call this as privatization? Think of it. Can we call this as privatization? No, this is not privatization. That's a criticism. Right? That's a criticism. This is not privatization. Why? Privatization essentially means you will sell the company to private sector. You will be selling the company to private sector. But here you are not selling it to private sector. You are selling it to the government owned company itself. But on the other side, right, you will get the money from an entity which is owned by you, and an entity which is owned by you is owning one more entity. That is basically the concept of cross holding. That is basically the concept of cross holding. Any problem with this? Sir, any example of a cross holding? The best example of a cross holding in recent times is Power Finance Corporation. Please remember this. Power Finance Corporation has acquired Rural Electrification Corporation. REC was owned by Government of India. PFC was owned by Government of India. So the REC has been sold to PFC. Government of India has collected money from PFC. This is a concept of cross holding, right? So this is one more type of right, the disinvestment that the Government of India can conduct. Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? The last point is CPSE ETFs. The concept of ETFs. Using ETFs also, Government of India can go for disinvestment. Please tell me, do you remember the concept of ETFs? Right, I've given you two examples. Do you remember the concept of ETFs? ETFs represent a basket, group of securities. Simple. ETFs represent a group of securities. For example, CPSE ETF is there. Right, Bharat 22 ETF is there. So ETFs represent a group of ETFs. Now please think of it and tell me, can I write Bharat Bond ETF as an example of disinvestment? Let me see. Think of it and please answer. Can I write Bharat Bond ETF as an example of disinvestment conducted by the Government of India? Let me see how many of you actually think. Bharat Bond ETF, can I call this as a type of disinvestment? As expected, most of you are saying yes. My dear, you are wrong. Those who are saying no, you are correct. Those who are saying yes, you are wrong. Sir, early morning, my brain has frozen. My dear, bond. Do you think bond is representing sale of ownership? What are you thinking? Let me know, what are you thinking? Bond represents a sale of ownership. Right? No, bond is a debt liability. Selling of shares represent ownership. So when I say Bharat Bond ETF, is it a type of disinvestment? No. Right, a bond term is there right in front of you. Bond, it is not ownership. It's not equity. Right, only when equity is sold from the government to somebody else, that is disinvestment. Here it is bond. It is a debt liability. It is not equity. Hence, no. Right, so these are some of the methods, some of the ways through which, right, the disinvestment can be conducted. But strictly speaking, there is an authority by the name of DIPAM. There is an authority by the name of DIPAM. Right? That's a department under Ministry of Finance. If you visit their website, DIPAM website simply says they will consider only the minority stake sale as a disinvestment. You can check it later. If you go to the website of DIPAM, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, DIPAM functions under Ministry of Finance. DIPAM is functioning under Ministry of Finance. So the DIPAM website simply says, right, the minority stake sale, they will generally consider that as a process of disinvestment. Okay, done. So these are the different types of methods which can be used by the government to sell ownership in the market. Part ownership, full ownership, etc., etc. Can we go forward now? ETF full form, exchange traded funds. My dear, you people are not revising. All I can say is you people are not revising. Some of them, usual suspects, you people are not revising. Please go back to the financial market. What is ETF? Right? Why do we go for ETF? I very nicely I drew, right? If you download the annotated slides, I've drawn jumps picture, color coding, etc., etc. Right? You people do not revise. And what is the point? What is cross holding? I'll repeat it again. Listen to me very carefully. There are two companies owned by the government. Both are owned by the government. Government will sell one company to another company. Government will sell one company to another company. If company A will purchase company B, A will have to pay money to the owner. Who is the owner of company B? Owner of company B is Government of India. So Government of India is not privatizing. It is not privatizing B, but it is still able to sell B and generate revenue from B. That is sale of B. This process is called as a cross holding. This is called as a cross holding structure. Okay, done. So these are the different ways. These are the different ways through which government can go for sale of ownership in the market. Now, next point. Whenever government will conduct a disinvestment, how the funds can be utilized? For what purposes the funds can be utilized by the government? These are the points. Government will conduct a disinvestment. Whatever funds they will collect through disinvestment, they will deposit in an account in a fund called as National Investment Fund, NIF. Please remember this. Whatever is the proceeds from the disinvestment, government will put all these proceeds, that is money, in a fund which is called as a National Investment Fund. Point number one, National Investment Fund is not a part, I repeat, is not a part of Consolidated Fund of India. It is outside the Consolidated Fund of India. Meaning what? Imagine this, Government of India wants to withdraw the money from the National Investment Fund. Please tell me now, do you think government will require the approval of Parliament of India? I'll repeat it again. National Investment Fund is not a part of Consolidated Fund of India. It is outside Consolidated Fund of India. In fact, many of the experts say it is a type of public account itself. Public account means what? Government can deposit at any point of time. Government can withdraw the money at any point of time without any approval of a parliament. Without any requirement of approval of the parliament. No permission is required from the parliament. Right? So that is basically the concept of National Investment Fund. Now, any money that is kept under the National Investment Fund, for what purposes will you need that? Will you use that money? Because please remember this, earlier, the money can be utilized for social welfare schemes as well as certain projects. Earlier, it was allowed. Today, if you ask me, sir, can Government of India use National Investment Fund for welfare schemes in India? Answer is simply no. Answer is simply no. Today you cannot use this money for any purposes. There are specific reasons, only specific reasons for which funds can be utilized. For example, you can use the money from the National Infrastructure Investment Fund for investing in metro projects. You can do that. You can invest in metro projects using the money. You can also purchase shares of Central Public Sector Enterprises. CPSE stands for Central Public Sector Enterprises. Now, there's a term called as a rights issue. What do you mean by the rights issue? Please remember this. Rights issues means the shares are issued to the existing shareholders. I will repeat the statement. What do you mean by rights issue? The shares of the company are issued to existing shareholders. All of you are okay with the term rights issue? Can we go forward? Please do let me know. What is the full form of DIPAM? DIPAM stands for Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. DIPAM. Okay. Now, you can use this money to purchase the shares of Central Public Sector Enterprises under rights issues. You can also invest capital in public sector bank. Recapitalization means the capital can be provided by the government to public sector banks. Now, why do we use the term recapitalization here? Why are we using term recapitalization? Please tell me, in public sector banks, can I simply say already government's capital is there? Yes or no? Please participate. In public sector banks, can I say already the capital of Government of India is there? Because Government of India is more than 51% owner of public sector bank. So if government will again put capital in the banks, can I call it as recapitalization? Of course, yes. That is called as recapitalization. So recapitalization of public sector banks is also allowed. They can provide capital for RRBs, regional rural banks. They can provide capital for NABARD also. They can invest this money in a railway capital expenditure. They can invest money in some of the companies which are owned by government in atomic energy sector. For example, Bharatiya Nabikya Vidyut Nigam Limited and Uranium Corporation of India Limited. Both of them are there under atomic energy. So government is allowed to use these funds. Government is allowed to use these funds in these areas only. Can they use it to launch a scheme for people? No. Can they use it to provide, repay the loans? No. They are allowed to use it only for the following purposes. Please remember, questions can be asked from this table. Questions can be asked from this table. Please be very, very careful. Okay. Now, these are the purposes for which the disinvestment proceeds can be utilized by Government of India. Next, now the latest policy. Now, the latest policy, latest disinvestment policy. Please be very, very careful. This was announced by the finance minister a couple of years ago. So far, no question has been asked by UPSC. So far, no question has been asked by UPSC. Please be very careful. What is the latest disinvestment policy? Government of India says we will divide the industries into two areas. One is called as a strategic sector. Second one will be referred to as a non-strategic sector. I'll repeat it. Government of India has divided the sectors into two categories. One is a strategic, second one is a non-strategic. Now, how do we classify? Why do we say this is strategic? Why do we say this is non-strategic? Government of India simply says, if I require a particular industry to achieve certain social welfare, right? If I want to achieve certain social welfare, if it is very important for national security, if I want to promote growth using this sector, etc. These are the parameters. I'll repeat it. If I want to achieve certain social welfare, if it is important for national security, or if I want to promote growth using this sector, etc., I will classify this as strategic sector. I'll simply classify this as a strategic sector. And anything else, any other sector, we will simply classify this as a non-strategic sector. Now, before I go forward, please have a glimpse of all of this. Please have a glance of all of this. And now tell me, can you give me examples of non-strategic sectors? Let's say after 4 weeks of Indian economic classes for you, let me see. Look at all these strategic sectors. My recommendation, by heart it. Simply by heart it. Now tell me, can you give me example of non-strategic sectors? Can I give you a best example, which you already have studied? Agriculture sector. Yes or no? Best example, agriculture sector. Right? Textile sector. Can I put all of them under non-strategic? Of course, yes. So don't remember the whole list. Don't remember the whole list. Some of them are more than sufficient to you. Now, atomic energy, space and defense. Right? It's a part of strategic. Transport and telecommunications, part of strategic. Power, petroleum, coal and other minerals, part of strategic. Right? Banking, insurance and financial services, part of, right, strategic. Now, why is the government of India dividing them into strategic and non-strategic? Government says in non-strategic sector, I repeat, government says in non-strategic sector, government will not have any ownership of the companies. I'll repeat the statement. Government of India says non-strategic sector, right? For example, let's say agriculture. Government will not have any kind of ownership in a company in non-strategic sector. Sir, what if already there is ownership? What if a company is already owned by Government of India, but this sector falls under non-strategic? Government says, in that case, I will privatize it. I will simply privatize it. I will not have any ownership under non-strategic sector. Come to the strategic sector. In case of strategic sector, government says maximum, at the maximum, In case of strategic, at the maximum, I will have up to 4 companies under my ownership. Is the logic okay? I'll repeat it again. In strategic, maximum, that is up to 4, will be owned by Government of India. In non-strategic, no companies will be owned by Government of India. What if it is already owned? They will try to privatize it. If they can't do it, they will shut it down. In case of strategic, up to 4, right? Up to 4 will be owned by Government of India. What if more than 4 are already present? We'll try to merge them. We'll simply try to merge them. If that is not possible, we'll try to privatize them. This is the latest disinvestment policy. Latest disinvestment policy, but please understand, is it applicable right now? Applicable in the sense, do you say in case of a power sector, petroleum, etc., maximum 4 are owned by Government of India? Not in all the cases. For example, banking sector. In case of banking sector, 11 companies, 11 public sector banks are owned by Government of India. But if you have observed, right, please make observations. That's the reason. If you have observed, please tell me, compared to 5 years ago or 6 years ago, can I say number of PSBs in India have come down? Let me know. Can I say, right, number of PSBs compared to 5 or 6 years ago, can I say number of PSBs have come down? Answer is yes, by the way. Answer is yes. Government of India has merged a lot of these PSBs. It has simply merged a lot of these PSBs. Going forward, it can do it again. Because as per the latest disinvestment policy, maximum up to 4 will be owned by the government. But please understand, what does it mean? What does it mean to the private sector? I'm not saying private sector is not allowed. Some of you are saying, but sir this, but sir that. I am saying, let's say in atomic energy, maximum 4 will be owned by the Government of India. That's all I'm saying. But in future, if Government of India will allow the private sector to operate, let them allow. Nothing wrong with that. But argument is, how many companies are owned by Government of India? Not more than 4. This is the latest disinvestment policy introduced by Government of India. Done? Now, 2 more important concepts, not related to disinvestment, but related to idea of government selling, government leasing, government investing, etc. 2 very important current affairs concepts I want to discuss. One is a national infrastructure pipeline. Second one is a national monetization pipeline. But before that, let me take a break. And if you have any kind of questions, raise it to me. Then we can take a break. What is Coal India Limited? Please connect the recent debate. Arey Baba, not required. You read in the newspaper, no? Right? Coal India Limited said, because we have kind of a monopoly, we are owned by Government of India. Right? A lot of power, lot of coal mining is done by Coal India Limited. They said we will not be coming under the purview of Competition Commission of India Act. But Competition Commission of India Act said, no, you're acting like a monopoly in the market, you will be covered under it. And the court said, yes, Competition Commission of India is correct. Okay. If there is a cross holding, why government goes for privatization? My dear, why do you think government is going for cross holding? Understand the logic behind it. Rural Electrification Corporation. Look at the name. Please look at the name and tell me, what is the importance of this? Rural Electrification Corporation. Have you heard of Rural Electrification Corporation in any of the schemes of Government of India? I'll give you a current affairs concept. Have you heard of PM Saubhagya? Let me know. Have you heard of PM Saubhagya? Anybody in the classroom? PM Saubhagya. Right? Nobody wants to answer. Right, sir? You keep on saying. We'll keep on thinking what are you saying. PM Saubhagya scheme. Pradhana Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana. Pradhana Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana. PM Saubhagya scheme. Which is the agency responsible for PM Saubhagya Yojana? It is basically Rural Electrification Corporation. Rural Electrification Corporation. It is REC which is a nodal agency for the implementation of this. That is the precise reason. I hope you understand. That's a precise reason. Government doesn't want to give away the ownership. Government doesn't want to give away the ownership. They want to control it, but through another company which is owned by them only. That is PFC. Okay. Up to 4 means only 4 departments. My dear, listen. Did I say 4 departments? I said up to 4 companies. Right? You people don't listen. Okay. Is government going to privatize IDBI bank? It is considering that. A lot of things is happening because of that, but it is considering that. New railway station infrastructure or innovation of the railway station developed under using IEF, sorry, NIF. Now please understand, it's a capital expenditure, can be done by the government. Uh, any advantage, or yeah, just now I discussed, but anyways, you'll keep on asking the same thing. What is cross holding? I'll repeat it. Cross holding simply means a government will sell the ownership owned by the government only to another company, which is again owned by the government. That is called as cross holding. And again, please understand, the term cross holding is very general. I'll repeat, the term cross holding is very, very common term. Right? For example, let's say, for example, I'm a billionaire. Hypothetically, okay, imagine I'm a billionaire. I open two companies, let's say company A and B. Now, both of the companies are owned by a common owner, that is me. Can I sell the company B to company A? It is allowed. That is called as cross holding structure. That is generally called as a cross holding structure. They do that to protect themselves, to have a limited exposure, etc. They actually do that. Okay. Okay. But in latest mining bill, a lot of these strategic minerals have been opened up for private sector. So what? Where did I say? Where did I say strategic sector will not be open for private sector? Tell me. Have I ever said in strategic sector private sector will not be allowed to participate? No. I said, right? I said government will have maximum four companies under its ownership. I'm not even saying what about private sector. Private sector will be allowed to operate. I'm having a doubt regarding banking sector. Earlier, SBI was also nationalized by Government of India, but why it is not classified as nationalized bank? My dear, SBI, please understand, SBI earlier was made as a public sector bank. There is an act for SBI. But for nationalized banks, two different laws were passed. For nationalized banks, two different laws were passed. And that is the reason whenever you say nationalized banks, right, 14 banks in first round, 6 banks in second round. And whenever you talk about SBI was earlier, three different banks were merged into one, Imperial Bank of India. Imperial Bank of India later was reclassified, renamed as SBI. For all of that, you will have to go back to banking history, not at all needed for you. Okay, done. Okay, done. So let's take a break now. Let's take a break. I'll restart at 8:10. I'll restart the discussion at 8:10. Please join back at 8:10. roadways, air roadways, airports, right, etc. Thousands of association pipeline. Now, what is privatization? Again, please understand, not privatization, but related to privatization. Then we'll go to the third pillar, that is globalization. Now, what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure all of you heard of NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline. Now, I'll come back to NIP, don't worry. There is one more initiative Government of India, National Monetization Pipeline. NMP, National Monetization Pipeline. Now, what is this National Monetization Pipeline? Understand this very carefully. Government of India has thousands of assets. All of you okay with this? Has thousands of assets in railways, roadways, airports, right, etc. Thousands of assets are there. So government says there are certain assets on which I've spent money, I've developed these assets, but either these assets are not being utilized by me or are being underutilized. For example, let's say airport. An airport has been developed by the government, they have spent money, but either the airport is not being utilized or underutilized by the government. So government says we will identify these assets in different sectors. For example, we'll identify these assets in infrastructure such as roadways, railways, the ports, airports, right, etc. We'll identify all these assets and we'll try to monetize. Monetize means, many of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by monetization? Monetization means deriving value from an asset. I'll repeat the statement. What do you mean by monetization? Deriving value. Deriving value from an asset is called as monetization. So imagine there is an airport. Government wants to monetize this airport, deriving value from the airport. What they can do is they will lease the airport. They will simply lease the airport, give it on lease to a private sector company for 30 years. Now, the private sector company will operate the airport, but will provide certain revenue, will provide money to Government of India. All of you okay with this model? Please do let me know. All of you okay with this model? I'll repeat the process here again. Very simple idea. There are certain assets which are not utilized or underutilized by the government. Government says we will monetize. We will not sell. Remember it. We will not sell. We will monetize it. How? I will give it on lease basis for 30 years. For 30 years to private sector. Private sector will operate the airport and annually will give me certain amount of money, will give me certain amount of revenue. I will use this money for construction of infrastructure. And after 30 years is over, again the airport will be transferred back to me. Again, it will be transferred back to me. Many of you are asking what is the difference in PPP? My dear, PPP basically is a model which is used in monetization. Have you heard of the model PPP? Let me see. I have not discussed PPP, by the way. Public-private partnership, I have not discussed. Let me know how many of you have read the term PPP in the newspaper in the last 2 days. Anybody can tell me? Sir, it was mentioned in this context, that context, etc., etc. If you have read the newspaper very carefully, have you come across PM e-bus Seva scheme? Let me know. Have you come across a new scheme which I asked you people to read? I asked you to read this. PM e-bus Seva scheme. That scheme is going to be implemented in the model of PPP only, public-private partnership. Right? This model, that scheme is going to be implemented in the form of PPP, public-private partnership only. I have not discussed PPP in detail. I know that next week we'll discuss it. Please don't worry. But come back to the point here. In this case, what we are doing is we are using a type of PPP. We are using a type of PPP wherein we are saying we will lease out. We will simply lease out the infrastructure to private sector. They will use the infrastructure but pay me money. And government will use this money for infrastructure purposes, development of other infrastructure purposes. This model is called as National Monetization Pipeline. Now, under National Monetization Pipeline, which infrastructure projects are covered? What is the value we want to monetize in the next couple of years? Please have a look at it. Do not by heart the list. My recommendation, do not by heart the complete list, very lengthy list. Rather than this, remember three very important sectors. Three very important sectors. One is basically roadways, second one is railways, and the third one is power sector. The three highest, one is roadways, second one is railways, third one is power sector. Right, so these three are present in NIP as well as NMP. So please remember three examples more than sufficient. Now, next important point. It will cover brownfield projects. What do you mean by brownfield projects? Let's start. Let's start. What do you mean by brownfield? I'll start with a very simple example. Government of India will ask you to construct an airport. Example 1. Government of India will ask you to construct an airport. Example 2. Airport is already there. Government will ask you to operate an airport. Provide operations in the airport. Now, please tell me, in the first example, can I say infrastructure is constructed from the scratch? I'll repeat the statement. In the first example, infrastructure project is constructed from the beginning. And in second example, the infrastructure is already present. We are asking somebody to operate using the infrastructure. So first one is basically greenfield project. These are called as a greenfield projects. And second one is basically a brownfield project. All of you are okay with this? First one is a greenfield project. The second one is called as a brownfield project. So now tell me, in the example of national monetization pipeline, think of it. Examples of national monetization pipeline. Did I say anywhere government will ask a private sector company to construct the project? Think of it. In the examples, right? I gave you airport example, I gave you railways, etc., etc. Is government asking the private sector to construct the project? No. Government is basically asking them to operate, take it on lease, use the project and give it back. So can I now say all the projects which are covered under the national monetization pipeline will be brownfield projects? All of you okay with this? All the projects which are going to be covered under NMP, short form NMP, will be brownfield projects. Please be very, very careful. Remember the technical terms. Remember the technical terms. Now, what are the advantages? Why is Government of India promoting this? Point number one. If there is an airport which is being underutilized by the government, it will be taken up by the private sector. Please tell me, don't you think better utilization of resources can be done now? All of you okay with this? The resources, the assets which are already there, we can make a better utilization. Point number two, if government will give it on a lease to private sector will pay money to Government of India. Can I say asset is generating revenue for the government, which they can use for other infrastructure projects? Other infrastructure projects? Of course, yes. Point number three. Point number three. If the private sector will start operating airport, what do you think will happen to quality of services? Think of it. What do you think will happen to quality of services? Don't you think quality will become superior? Right? The services quality will be provided in a much better way. As a customers, are we not going to get the benefit of this? Of course, yes. And if this model will work out, at the central government level, we can try out the model even at the state government level. All of you are okay with the advantages of national monetization pipeline? Let me know. All of you are okay with national monetization pipeline? How NMP and railways are done, right? The railway stations are there. Railway routes are there. There are so many ways. Okay? Done. Next, what are the concerns then? What are the concerns? What are the problems, issues associated with the NMP? First one, imagine all the airports under NMP are given to one private sector company. Don't you think automatically concerns regarding transparency will be raised? Yes or no? I'll repeat the statement. Imagine all the airports under NMP or majority of the airports will end up going to only one private sector company. Right now, question is, right, will there be any transparent process, or is the process transparent enough? Is there bias against one company, bias towards one company? Is there corruption, etc., etc.? All these questions will start arising. Again, I'm saying hypothetically. Do not make it political, keep it economical. Now, second one is, if private sector wants to operate, if private sector wants to purchase, sorry, not purchase, wants to take it on lease, how will you find out what is the value of the asset? Right? Why? Please understand this. Imagine there is an airport. Imagine there is an airport. Please tell me, if there are five competitors, five bidders to get the airport on lease, will the government get more money, or when this airport, right, the bid for the airport is done by only one player? Let me know. Where do you think government will be able to generate more revenue, more money? Don't you think multiple bidders, when there are multiple bidders are there, right, their government will be able to generate more revenue? So now the question is, how will you identify the value of the asset if there are very few bidders? If there is only one bidder, only two bidder, then how will you identify what is the value of the asset? Will it not lead to lower revenue generation for the government if they go ahead, if only one bidder is there or only two bidders are there? So that is a concern. Second one, if private sector will take over and start operating these infrastructure projects, do you think they will continue with the same number of workers? Think of it. Do you think they will continue to have the same number of workers? Not necessary. They might remove, and most probably they will remove. Right? They might remove some of the employees. So what will happen to the safety and security of job of workers? Next, if the private sector, imagine, right? I'll just give a very simple example. Imagine you have 100 rupee. Right? Think of it very carefully. Do not have any doubt regarding this. Imagine you have 100 rupee. You use the 100 rupee to purchase a book. Can I also say it means that you will not have 100 rupee to go to a movie? Although most of you will do opposite, but think of it. Imagine you have 100 rupee, right? You have this 100 rupee, you'll use the 100 rupee to purchase a book. Assuming you're very serious aspirant, etc., etc., you will purchase a book, which means you will not make the same 100 rupee as expenditure in going to a movie. Now apply the same logic to a private sector company. If the private sector company has 100 crore rupee, they will use the 100 crore rupee to take an airport on the lease. It means, can I say, other capital expenditures of the company will be limited? Yes or no? Other capital expenditures of the company will be limited, meaning rather than spending on any other capital expenditure asset, they have taken an airport on lease. Right? That is the third point. If the private sector spends under NMP, then its capex will be limited in other projects. And next one, if the private sector will take an airport on lease, will start providing better quality services, what will happen to prices? What will happen to prices? Don't you think prices for the services will start increasing? And think of it, is it always guaranteed? Underline this. Is it always guaranteed that private sector, when they take up the service provision, they will always provide better services than government of India? Please think, is it always guaranteed? No, it is not guaranteed. It is never guaranteed. Generally, the assumption is that private sector will provide better services. But what if private sector will take up certain project? Now they are more focused on profit generation. They will increase the pricing. Now you do not have any alternative. You will keep on going to them, but they will provide slightly inferior services. Can happen. Can happen. That's a concern. Next one. If the asset will be used by the private sector for 30 years, after 30 years, what will be the quality of the asset? What will be the shape of the asset when it will be returned to government of India? When it will be returned to government of India. So don't you think, right, the quality of the asset will be very, very inferior? Right? If you have a doubt, imagine you have a home. I will take the home on rental basis for 3 years. After 3 years, I will hand over the keys to you, collect my deposit, and go away. I will vacate the home. Now, do you think the quality of the home will be superior compared to 3 years? Fan will not be rotating, right? Windows will not be opening, right? Some of the glasses will be broken, right? Some of the doors will not open properly, right? And you can imagine what else would have happened in the home. So argument is simple. Apply the same logic here as well, because private sector is right is going to focus on profit. They might end up abusing the infrastructure, overusing the infrastructure, and by the time they will hand it over, right, the quality will be very, very inferior. Done? All of you okay with this? Right? So these are some of the concerns related to the national monetization pipeline. Any problem with this? Any problem with this? Can we go forward? What is capex? Capex stands for capital expenditure. Capex stands for capital expenditure, right? The investment that you do in purchasing machinery, right? Infrastructure, creation of assets, etc. Can you repeat the first point? If there is only one bidder for an airport, only one bidder is there, nobody else is bidding, will you be able to find out what is the right value to give the airport on lease basis? You will not be able to find it out. You will not be able to find out. Why? When you have competition, when you have multiple bidders, only then you can find out what is the true value. Otherwise, you will not be able to find out. Then even if, right, if only one bidder is there, multiple airports will go to one company, then, right, there will be questions over transparency of the process. Okay, done? If private sector will take up the management operations of an airport, railways, etc., etc., they'll be focused on profit generation. They will not be worried about worker security, worker safety. They might remove some of the workers in order to reduce the cost of operation and increase the profit motive. Okay, so these are some of the concerns associated with national monetization pipeline. Now, please tell me, is national monetization pipeline is equal to disinvestment? Let me know. Is a national monetization pipeline is equal to disinvestment? Some of you are saying yes. Very good. Very, very good. Great. Right? Very, very good people. Okay, my dear, in disinvestment, are you leasing out the asset or are you selling the asset? That's the reason. If you do not listen to it properly, that is the reason you will have these kind of doubts. In disinvestment, are you leasing out the asset or are you selling the asset? You are selling the asset. Whereas in national monetization pipeline, are you leasing or are you selling? You are leasing. Both are different. Both are different. Okay. So let me go to the next one. National Infrastructure Pipeline. NIP. NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline. Okay. Now, what is this National Infrastructure Pipeline? Very simple logic. Infrastructure, expenditure in infrastructure has multiplier effect. All of you are okay with point one? Expenditure in infrastructure has a multiplier effect. Point number two, Government of India has a target of making Indian economy worth $5 trillion in the next couple of years. Now, if the Indian economy has to become worth $5 trillion, there is no doubt that we have to invest a lot of money and develop a lot of infrastructure. We have to invest a lot of money and develop a lot of infrastructure. There is no doubt regarding this. And that is the precise reason there is now a proposal called as National Infrastructure Pipeline, in short, NIP. Now, under the National Infrastructure Pipeline, Government of India has a target of investing totally more than 110 lakh crore rupees, not directly all by Government of India. I'll come to that. The total target under NIP is more than 111 lakh crore rupees. And under this, we want to develop more than 9,000 infrastructure projects. More than 9,000 infrastructure projects. Right? So, these 9,000 infrastructure projects again will be in multiple sectors. Do not by heart everything. These will be under multiple sectors. As usual, The usual suspects you remember: roadways, railways, and power sector. Roadways, railways, and power sector. These three are again the major targets for infrastructure development. Now, please understand this. The funding under NIP, I said the total amount of investment target is more than 111 lakh crore rupees. So, from where, which sources you will get all this funding? Three very important sources. One is the government of India. Second one is the private sector. Third one is the state government. Right? One is the government of India. Around 39% of the total investment is supposed to come from government of India. Around 40% of the total investment is supposed to come from the state government, and around 21% of the investment is supposed to come from the private sector. Right, through by promoting, so by promoting a lot of these infrastructure project, government of India says will be able to promote economic infrastructure and will be able to contribute to growth in the economy in the coming days. Okay, just give me a second, I'll turn off the camera. Do not panic. Okay, am I audible as well as visible? Am I audible as well as visible? Arey Baba, if the class is going to finish, I'll tell you. Don't worry. If the class is going to finish, I'll tell you. In fact, if you have listened very carefully, I said, I'll switch off the audio as well as video. Do not panic. But even then, some of the students started panicking. What happened? Where did this fellow go? Right? Has he finished the class? He did not tell me, etc. It is not yet over. Now, let's continue. The government of India, in order to promote a lot of infrastructure projects, okay. So the government of India, in order to promote infrastructure projects, has been promoting a pipeline, has been basically promoting a scheme by the name of National Infrastructure Pipeline. Have a look at the points now. Under this, the total investment of over 111 lakh crore rupee has been envisaged. Envisaged means that we are going to invest so much amount of money. Second, it is jointly funded by the central government, state government, as well as private sector. In fact, I've given you the breakup. Please have a look at it. 39, 40, and 21. Right? That is respectively for central government, state government, and private sector. Third one, it will be implemented in the duration of 20 to 25. It will be implemented from 2020 to 2025. The sectors such as railways, energy, roadways have major share within this concept of national infrastructure pipeline. What are the objectives? What are we trying to achieve using national monetization, so national infrastructure pipeline? Point number one, infrastructure has a multiplier effect. If I make an investment, automatically the overall investment in the Indian economy will increase. Second, employment will be generated. Demand for the raw materials will start increasing. Point number two, imagine out of 111 lakh crore rupees. I repeat, imagine out of 111 lakh crore rupees, if a large chunk of it, I'll just round off the number, do not panic now, around 80%. around 80% will come from, right, let's say, right, basically the government, state government as well as central government. Don't you think it will attract a lot of private sector investment as well? Because private sector will look at it and say, okay, government is investing so much, government is investing so much, so let me also invest, let me also invest. Okay, now before I go forward, a couple of 1 minute ago, or even not complete 1 minute, half a minute ago, all of you can see a link has been pasted. Let me know. All of you can see in your comment box a link has been pasted. Now there are two links. One is for the PPT that I'm using. Second one is the list of the articles. Second one is basically the list of the articles. You can use both of the links. One is only for the articles. Second one is for the complete PPT. Please use those articles. That is your weekly assignment, by the way. Weekly assignment. Around 15 articles I've given. Use those articles, read them, and Monday I want your feedback whether these articles are relevant for UPSC or not. And as far as I'm concerned, I've stayed away mostly from Hindu newspaper article. Assuming that you people are right, basically the followers of the Hindu newspaper, I've stayed away. Most of them are out of Hindu newspaper. For example, couple of days ago, that the article regarding e-bus scheme, etc., etc. I've assumed you have read from a Hindu newspaper. I've not given those articles. I've given other articles. Please read them and tell me on Monday whether these are relevant or not. And I keep on telling you this every week. And Monday, when I ask, have you people read the newspaper article? Many of you will simply say, sir, I did not get time. Very nice answer. Sir, I did not get time. My dear, if you don't get time in 2 days, that is in 48 hours, if you do not have time to read, right, let's say 10 articles which are relevant for you, which I have basically sat, right, compiled and given to you to make your job easier, then I don't know how you're thinking of getting through UPSC. Okay, so please read, please read. It is for your benefit. It is for your benefit. I'm doing this for your benefit. I have read them. I know what is there, but I'm not writing exam. It is your duty. Now let's start. Objective: we will be able to develop world-class infrastructure. We'll be able to develop world-class infrastructure. Now, what do you mean by world class, etc., etc.? I'll give a very simple example. All of you heard of Delhi Mumbai Expressway? Let me see. Right? All of you heard of Delhi Mumbai Expressway or not? Right? If you've heard of it, please tell me, is it not a world class infrastructure that we have constructed in India? Is it not going to reduce the cost of transportation? Is it not going to promote a movement between two, right, industrial towns, but at a very very low time consumption? Will it not reduce the fuel consumption, etc., etc.? So I hope you understand this. I hope you understand this. Right, we are able to develop world class infrastructure. Higher capital expenditure is always associated with multiplier effect. It will attract lot of private sector investment, and it will also improve the quality of life of the citizens. At the end of the day, all of us citizens, consumers, will get the benefit, either in the form of transportation, cheaper transportation of raw materials, etc. Right, we are going to get the benefit of it. Okay, so this is basically the idea of a national infrastructure pipeline. So now we are done with the liberalization, we are done with privatization. Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Third pillar is left out, that is globalization. Liberalization is done, privatization is done. Let me go forward with the concept of globalization. What do you mean by globalization? It is defined as increase in the flow of goods, increase in the flow of services, capital, people, and ideas across boundaries. I'll repeat the statement here. Globalization simply means what? It is referring to flow of goods, services, capital, people, ideas across boundaries, across international market. For example, investment will flow from India to USA or USA to India. Labor will flow from India to European market or India to, right, Middle East, and same way they can come to India. So that is the argument. That is basically the argument here. Globalization is referred to as flow of goods, services, people, investment, and ideas across the boundaries. And whenever this will happen, please think of it. Whenever this will happen, can I say more and more market will become open? Market openness will be observed. Countries, right, might attract investment rather than being dependent. Right, they might become independent of imports now. They might have deeper economic relations with the rest of the world. So that is also the concept of, right, globalization. And whenever you come across these things, free flow of investment is allowed, free flow of capital is allowed, free flow of labor is allowed, free flow of goods and services is allowed. This is nothing but the movement towards idea of globalization. It says we are promoting globalization. For example, have a look at it. Please have a look at the points and tell me now. Can I say India is promoting globalization? All of you okay with this? I'll repeat the statement. Please look at the points given in the slide and tell me, is it okay if I say India is promoting globalization? Answer is yes, by the way. Don't say no, sir. India is not promoting globalization. Don't say that. We are promoting globalization. How? Let me prove it. India has now made exchange rates determined by the market forces. Right? It's a determinant of market forces, which means government has no control. Market forces will determine what is the exchange rate of rupee versus dollar. Will it not help in importing and exporting? Will it not help in attracting investments or outflow of investments? Will it not help in, right, borrowing from external market? Of course, right, all of these will be assisted. Right, foreign investment is allowed in India. We are allowing foreign direct investment. We are allowing foreign portfolio investment into India now. We have removed whatever controls, most of the controls that government of India had imposed before 1991. Most of the controls have been removed by the government. Right. So this is basically the idea of a globalization. Right. And government of India has been implementing reforms to promote globalization. Any problem? Protectionism isn't going away from globalization. Yes, protectionism is moving away from globalization. But please understand, protectionism has arisen in recent times because of pandemic. Because of pandemic, protectionism has increased in the global market. But before that, please think from 1991 till 2020. Think of it and do let me know. From 1991 to 2020, what do you think has happened? Overall, in the global market, has protectionism come down or has increased? Think overall. Don't take one country and start arguing with that. Think overall. Right? Overall, in the global market, protectionism has actually gone down. It has actually, some of you are saying increased. No, my dear. Right? You don't know what is happening in reality then. You do not know what is happening in reality. Let me prove it to you. There is one article, right? I would recommend read all of these article. Please have a look at this. Read this article. It was there in yesterday's Mint newspaper. Let me show you one more article. Have a look at this as well. So please understand, globalization, it has been promoted. We have been promoting globalization. But please understand, the next point is, in recent times, no doubt, because of various internal factors and external factors, protectionism has increased. But it has not happened post 1991 until very recently. Very recently, because the governments are concerned. Governments are concerned about their national security. Governments are concerned about their domestic production. Governments are concerned about inflation in the domestic market. That is the reason protectionism has increased. For example, can I prove it now? Government of India, no doubt, in the last couple of years has imposed a lot of barriers regarding agriculture commodities. But please tell me, think and tell me, is it not the concern of inflation that has led to Government of India imposing these barriers? Yes or no? Let me know. Please think of it and answer. Is it not the concern over domestic inflation rate that has led to imposing these protectionist barriers by the government of India? Of course, yes. If you have seen, right, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, government promoted export of sugar. They promoted export of sugar. They promoted export of wheat. They promoted export of rice. Why? Supply was very high in the domestic market. But now they are concerned about the domestic inflation rate. Now they are saying, no, I will not promote exports. That is the reason. Right? That is the precise reason. So think of it. Please think of it. Historically, we have reduced, but now because of various concerns. In fact, if you have read yesterday's newspaper and today also, some of the newspapers it is there, concerned about domestic inflation. Government of India is now considering importing wheat from Russia. Yes or no? Concerned about domestic inflation. Government of India is importing wheat from Russia now. From a situation where we were exporting wheat, we stopped exports, now we are importing. And after all of this story, there are two students who are asking, why are we importing? Then, my dear, what were you listening for last 2 minutes? Can you imagine? The whole story is over. Whole story is over. And when I say government is importing food grains, now suddenly they are asking, why are they importing? And don't you think inflation is a concern in India? That's a reason. Listen. Please listen. You people do not listen only. Okay, there is one more question, sir. How can globalization, right, promote independence? Let me take a very simple example. Again, there is a counter argument also. If you are exporting more, you are more dependent on performance of other economy. But tell me, look at the example of mobile phones in India. Rather than importing, we are exporting mobile phones. Is it economic independence or not? Let me know. Rather than importing, now we can export mobile phones. Is it not promoting economic independence? Of course, yes. Some of you are saying no. What is your argument? Let me know. You're saying no. Why? Why are you saying no? Let me know. Right? It will promote independence from right other economies. We are not dependent on the import now. We can manufacture in the domestic market. Okay. Now, let's do the critical evaluation of globalization. Critical evaluation. What are the benefits? What are the issues or concerns? What are the issues or concerns? So, benefits, access to more markets will be available. Access to more markets will be available. We can export more and more goods and services. We can also get access to more and more labor pool or labor talent from the international market. Next one, higher investment and growth. Higher investment and growth. We will be attracting a lot of investment from the global market. Rather than, understand this, rather than being dependent only on the government, from the private sector, from the international market, we are able to bring in investment and we can produce in India. We'll be able to generate a lot of jobs in India. We'll be able to generate a lot of jobs in India. We'll be able to increase the number of jobs, more salary will be paid, per capita income will increase, quality of living, standard of living will increase. It will also promote access to better kind of a technology, innovation, research and development, investment in the domestic market. These are some of the benefits or advantages of globalization. These are some of the advantages or benefits of globalization. Next, what are the issues or concerns? What are the issues or concerns? Point number one, lot of these multinational enterprises will be involved in the tax evasion, tax avoidance. So government of India, please tell me, government of India, don't you think the tax revenues of government of India will be affected by this? We have discussed all of this. Right? Don't say, sir, what is this tax avoidance, tax evasion, etc. Please open your taxation chapter and have a look at it. Exploitation of the workers can also be done. Possible or not? Exploitation of the workers. Of course, yes. Can I give you examples? Whenever you read about textiles, there is one country, India is a neighboring country, which is becoming very famous for textile exports. I'm talking about Bangladesh. I'm talking about Bangladesh. It is said that in Bangladesh, lot of textile manufacturing by American companies is outsourced. American companies, lot of these American companies, such as Gap, right, such as H&M, these American companies, large companies, they will outsource these manufacturing production of textile units to Bangladesh. And trust me, in case of Bangladesh, there have been incidences of child labor, especially in this textile sector, incidences of child labor, instances where proper facilities are not provided for workers. For example, drinking water facility is not there. If there is a sudden breakout of fire, escaping facilities are not there. Many tragic incidences have happened. Trust me, you can check it online later. So argument is simple: child labor usage, payment of very low wages. Because some of you will ask me, sir, how is that possible? How can we pay lower wages? These companies do not hire the workers directly. They will not hire the workers directly. They will simply outsource the work to a middleman. And middleman will hire these workers at a cheap prices, very throwaway prices, very, very less prices. So getting lot of work done without providing appropriate wages. Is it not exploitation? Is it not exploitation? In fact, Bangladesh is known for having sweatshops. Right? Check it out in the Google later. They are known to be having sweatshops. What do you mean by sweatshops? The areas where, right, a lot of manufacturing is done without providing right wages to the labor, not providing any right facilities to the labor. These are called as sweatshops. So a lot of these bigger companies, H&M, Zara, etc., right, Fuel, etc., a lot of these companies, they will outsource their manufacturing to some other country where lot of population requires wages, lot of population is unemployed, very less developed country, and exploit the workers from there. So exploitation of the workers. Next one, concentration of wealth, increasing inequality. Don't you think globalization is possible because of capitalism? Think of it. Globalization is possible because of capitalism. Because there is a capitalism, that is the only reason globalization will happen. If there is no capitalism, why will private sector invest if there is no capitalism? So whenever there is association with capitalism, will it lead to concentration of wealth? Will it lead to wealth inequality? Will it lead to income inequality? Of course, answer is yes. Loss of jobs in the home country. Please read this very carefully. Loss of jobs in the home country. What do you mean by home country? Imagine there is an American company. They will outsource manufacturing of a product to India. So rather than manufacturing in USA, we will manufacture or provide the services from India. So don't you think they will generate jobs in India? And because they are not manufactured in USA, they will reduce the job generation in USA. All of you are okay with this? Think of it, right? Let's take a very simple example. Imagine a manufacturer will manufacture this remote in USA. Let's say they are manufacturing this in USA. Now they'll say labor is available at a cheaper cost, comparatively lower cost in India. I will close this unit in USA. I will get it manufactured in India. So loss of jobs in USA, creation of jobs in India. That's the reason there are two technical terms. Please remember, if there is a investment that will flow from USA to India, I will call India as a host country. I will call India as a host country. I will call right USA as a home country. All of you okay with this? Right now, look at this. Can I say globalization will lead to creation of jobs in host country, but loss of jobs in the home country? I'll repeat the statement. Globalization will lead to creation of jobs in the host countries, but loss of jobs in the home countries. That's correct, by the way. And finally, what is the impact on environment? The kind of pollution you will cause, the kind of resources that you will consume, right? What about that? What about the loss of the environment? What about the pollution that you cause to the environment? These are also the concerns related to globalization. Done? Can we go forward now? What is the concept of sweatshops? Not required for UPSC. Just because I write it, don't start doing PhD on it. Right? Bangladesh is known to be having sweatshops, right? But for UPSC, it is not needed. You don't have to buy heart it. Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Anybody has an issue? Anybody has an issue? Please do let me know. Okay, done. Now, there were two students who were saying, but sir, in case of globalization, you said it will promote growing economic independence, but in India we are seeing, right, we will import more, we'll manufacture more. My dear, you're looking at India, but argument of globalization is what is the argument of globalization? Can I say globalization will attract a lot of investments in India? So rather than manufacturing outside and importing it, we'll manufacture in India. Is it not promoting economic independence? Think of this way. Again, I'm saying there is a counter argument also. There is definitely a counter argument. What is a counter argument? Globalization, because in globalization there is a growing dependence. I'll prove that. Because in globalization there is a integration of economies. If something happens in one economy, it will have an impact on another economy. For example, please tell me, if something is happening in European Union, will it affect the growth in India? If something happens in USA, will it affect growth in India? Yes. If something is happening between Russia and Ukraine, will it affect India? Of course, yes. I hope you understand. Of course, yes. So argument is there on both the sides. Don't say, sir, you are always wrong. No. You can have arguments on both the sides. What is advantage, you write it. What is a disadvantage, you write it. Okay, done. Okay, so these are some of the important things regarding globalization. Now, there was one student who was asking, is it needed for UPSC? My dear, yes. Right? Yes, it is needed for UPSC. If it is not needed, I will only say it is not needed, leave it. So, what kind of question they will ask then? For example, can they ask you, right, critically evaluate globalization? Or can they use a statement like this? Globalization is necessary evil. Elaborate. Many of you will keep on thinking evil means what? Why it is necessary? Are they talking about anything related to this story, that story, right? Religious scriptures, etc. No, it is necessary evil. It is needed, but has certain issues or concerns. Write the answer. Okay, let me go forward. MSME sector. Next concept I want to cover is MSME sector. Now, point number one, what is MSME? Micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSME stands for micro, small, and medium enterprises. What is the definition? Please by heart this. Please by heart this. There are two parameters. One is investment. Second one is right, the annual turnover. Right, a simple trick. 1:5. 1:5. Right, please by heart this. 1:5. That is 1 crore, 5 crore, 10 crore, 50 crore, 50 crore, 250 crore rupees. Right, so this is basically the classification, right, parameters that we're using today. Whether it is a manufacturing MSME or service sector MSME, doesn't matter. Only one definition is there. Earlier we had different definitions for both of them. We have discontinued that. We have only one definition. Okay, now this is point number one. Point number two, we have introduced MSME Act. We have passed MSME Act. MSME bill was introduced. We have passed it. Today we have MSME Act. And under MSME, all these three types of are recognized. And please remember, to promote the growth of MSME sector in India, in 2007, we have also established Ministry of MSME. We also have Ministry of Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises to promote the growth of MSME sector. Point number two. Point number three. Point number three, what is the importance of MSME? Why MSME sector is so relevant for India? Point number one, the number of MSME units. The number of MSME units are more than 6 crore, and totally they have generated 11 crore employment in India. Right? Is the point okay with all of you? The number of MSMEs are more than 6 crore, and right, all of them put together, they have generated more than 11 crore employments in India. That's the reason 11 crore jobs are not easy to create. I hope you understand their importance. So 11 crore jobs are there in the whole of MSME sector. Point number two, MSMEs are present in manufacturing as well as services sector, which means the total production of goods, contribution to GDP, contribution to exports, production of services, contribution to GDP, contribution to exports. For example, MSMEs contribute around 30% to total GDP. MSMEs contribute around 40% of the total exports to the global market from India. And manufacturing from MSMEs accounts for overall 45% of total manufacturing in India. So these are some of the reasons why MSME sector is so relevant, so important for Indian economy. Right now, let me go to the next one. What are the concerns? What are the problems in the MSME sector? Point number one, pandemic has affected performance of MSME sector. Anybody who wants to argue against it, please do let me know. Because I'll write pandemic because we are talking 2023, right? Hardly 2 years from the pandemic. So can I say pandemic has affected most of the Indian economy? All of you will be okay? If I say pandemic has affected manufacturing sector in India, anybody wants to counter it? Right? Pandemic has affected most of the services sector. Anybody wants to counter it? So argument is simple. What are the issues or challenges in recent times for Indian economy? Pandemic will be one of them. Because please understand, some of you will tell me, sir, but pandemic is over now. Right? Yes, you're right. Some of you will simply say pandemic is over. But please understand, to create supply chains, it will take multiple years. And pandemic has a disrupted lot of supply chains. All of you okay with the statement? I'll repeat it again. To create a very stable, right? To create a very stable supply chain system, it takes multiple years. But pandemic has disrupted the supply chain system in India. So it will take multiple years for the whole supply chain system to become as it was before pandemic. Okay, so point number one, do not argue, do not counter it, simply write. Nobody will question you regarding this. If you say pandemic has affected service sector, you are right. Pandemic has affected manufacturing sector, you are right. Pandemic has affected export sector, you are absolutely right, my dear. Right? Do not argue against it, simply write it. Second, credit related issues. Credit related issues. Point number one, please tell me whether have you come across this in yesterday's class. Most of the micro enterprises are informal in nature. All of you okay? Most, or you can say majority of the or large number of micro enterprises are informal. Informal means these are not registered. Now imagine you're a bank manager. I'm a owner of a micro enterprise, not registered. I will come to you, ask for a loan. Will you provide the loan to me? Will you provide the loan to me? Will you feel the inclination? Will you be happy that an unregistered entity is coming to me to take a loan? Most of you will run away. You'll simply say, no, sir, sorry. Please become registered first. Please become registered first, then I will give you loan. So large number of micro enterprises or within MSME, these are informal in nature. These are not registered. Right? And second point, even if they're registered, they may or may not have any collateral to provide to the bank. Because of all of these reasons, access to institutional credit has become a problem for MSME sector. Access to institutional credit, that's very important. Institutional credit has become a problem for MSME sector. So demand is very high, supply is very, very less. Next one, delayed payments also has become a problem for MSMEs now. What do you mean by delayed payments? Let me give a very simple example. I will supply raw material to you and you will produce goods, sell it, and after 60 days, you will make a payment for raw materials to me. Can I call this as credit cycle? Let me know. I'll repeat the example. Today I will supply raw material. Immediately you will not make the payment. You will use the raw material, produce the goods and sell the goods in the market. And after 60 days of receiving raw material, you will make the payment to me. That is called as credit cycle. Now, please let me know, because of pandemic, what do you think should have happened to credit cycle? Do you think credit cycle will become shorter, or you think credit cycle will become bigger or longer? Please think of it. Because of the pandemic, do you think credit cycle will become shorter or longer? Credit cycle will become longer, my dear. Why? Some of you are saying shorter. No, it doesn't make economic sense. Because of pandemic, your revenue has been affected or not? Your revenues have been affected. You are not able to sell the same quantity as you were able to sell earlier. And many of you will simply say, sir, right, no pandemic today, etc., etc. Imagine your exporter to USA. What is happening in USA now? Is the demand in USA increasing? Your exporter to European Union. Do you think demand in European Union is increasing? If you say yes, read newspapers very carefully then. Please read newspapers very carefully. Do me a favor, I don't think so I've given that article, because for UPSC not so much relevance. Read articles which have appeared regarding slowdown in USA and European Union, and what is the impact of that on India. Right? In fact, if you remember the first week I gave you one article. European Union falls into recession. Germany falls into recession. So when there is a recession in the European Union market, you think demand will go up. And MSMEs contribute greatly to exports. So if the demand in my markets, important markets, will go down, don't you think my exports will also go down? That is very logical, right? Our exports will also go down. So if you're a MSME exporter, you're not able to export, generate revenues. Will you make the payment in 60 days? No, you will demand credit cycle of 90 days. You will demand credit cycle of 120 days, etc. Now, please tell me, if the credit cycle will increase, will it not affect the suppliers? Will it not affect my financial position? Will it not force me to go for bill discounting? Will it not force me to borrow again in the market? So that is a financial pressure which has been created by elongated credit cycles. And this is happening in the current affairs. Please be very careful. Okay? Delayed payments. Lack of supporting infrastructure, roads, ports, power, etc. Next week we'll discuss about all of them. What is the problem in road infrastructure? What is the problem in the port infrastructure? What is the problem in power infrastructure? We'll discuss all of them tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow you don't have a class, by the way. Right? So weekday you don't have a class. Next week I will cover a chapter called as infrastructure. We will have a detailed discussion on all of them. Please don't worry. Right? So supporting infrastructure, there is a lack of it. We need to develop a lot of supporting infrastructure. And finally, rising NPS. The MSME sector is accounting for increasing number of non-performing assets now. That is also a concern regarding the performance of MSME sector. Done? So these are some of the concerns. So what is the reform then? What kind of measures have been undertaken? Let's go one by one. First one is Mudra Yojana. Micro Units Development and Refinancing Agency. I'll repeat the expansion of it. Listen to me. Micro Units Development and Refinancing Agency, in short called as Mudra Yojana. Now, what is the role of Mudra Yojana? Under Mudra Yojana, the MSEs, that is micro and small enterprises, MSEs, micro and small enterprises, can take collateral free loans up to 10 lakh rupees from certain financial institutions. I'll repeat the statement. Listen to me very carefully. Then if there is a doubt, raise it. I'll repeat it again. Under Mudra Yojana, what is Mudra? Micro Units Development and Refinancing Agency. Under Mudra Yojana, many financial institutions will provide collateral free loans to micro and small enterprises up to 10 lakh rupees. Right? There are three types of loan products. Please have a look at it. Shishu, Kishore, and Tarun. If you opt for Shishu loan, then it basically means the loan value will be up to 50,000. For Kishore, more than 50,000 up to 5 lakh rupees. And Tarun, more than 5 lakh rupees up to 10 lakh. But more importantly, all these loans are collateral free. You do not have to provide any collateral. These are collateral free. Okay. And these loans are provided by whom? Commercial banks, regional rural banks, small finance banks, NBFCs, etc. Right? All these institutions will provide collateral-free loan to you. Right? That is called as Mudra Yojana. Come to the second one, 59-minute loan portal. 59-minute loan portal. What is this 59-minute loan portal? 59-minute loan portal is a website that has been created. Right? There's a website, you can check it. psbloans in 59minutes.com or .in. psbloans in 59minutes.in. Now, what is the importance of this 59-minute loan portal? Imagine I'm a owner of a micro enterprise. I want to apply for a loan. Now I will have to go to bank A, get information. Bank B, again get information. Bank C, get information. Then decide to which bank I will have to apply for a loan. Now, rather than this, what if all the three banks are listed on a portal? Simple. All the three banks are listed on a portal. I will simply register in the portal, log on to the portal. I will look at the information provided by the banks in the portal, and I will choose to apply for a loan in the portal itself. I will not go to physical branch. I will choose to apply for a loan in the portal, and in the next 1 hour, 59 minutes, either they will accept the application or they will reject the application. They will not give you loan. In 59 minutes, they will not come running to you and give loan and go back. Right? It's not Blinkit that within 10 minutes you will get the delivery. Absolutely no. Process is simple. They will either accept or reject, give the in principle approval for the loan application. They will take time to process the application, but the first step is whether they will accept or reject, and that will be done in 59 minutes. That is called as a 59-minute loan portal. And have a look at this. Some of the banks will provide loans with collateral. Some of the banks will provide loans without any collateral. All of this will be available in the portal. Right? So borrower can choose from which lender they want to take a loan. The value of loan can be between 1 crore rupees to 5 crore rupee. And third point I'll discuss now. The platform is integrated with CGT MSC portal. The platform has been integrated with the CGT MSC portal. Now, what is the CGT MSC portal? Let me explain this. CGT MSC stands for Credit Guaranteed Trust for Micro and Small Enterprises. CGT MSC stands for Credit Guaranteed Trust for Micro and Small Enterprises. Now, what do you mean by credit guaranteed trust, etc., etc.? Let me explain this. Follow this very carefully. Imagine you are a bank manager. I will approach you. I'm a micro enterprise. I will approach and I will apply for a loan. Now, don't you think because I'm a micro enterprise, right, my business is not very stable, I'm affected by a lot of internal and external factor, it is very risky to provide loans to me? Think of it and answer. Right? Don't you think you'll think that it is very risky to provide loans to me? And many of the times, because of the risk component, you might simply feel, I may give a loan, but the borrower may not provide the loan back, may not repay the loan. In such situations, please understand this, to improve the safety, to improve the security related to the loan, think of this, government will tell you, provide a loan to the micro enterprise. If the micro enterprise does not repay the loan, certain part of the loan, government will repay it. I'll repeat the process here. Right? So government says, you provide the loan to a micro enterprise. If they are unable to repay the loan, up to certain limit, I will repay the loan to you. Now tell me, if this kind of a guarantee is provided by the government, don't you think the safety for the loan will increase? Yes or no? The security will also increase? Of course, yes. That is the precise reason Government of India has created a fund for it. Government has created a trust for it, credit guaranteed trust for micro and small enterprises. Under this, For certain loans, up to 75% guarantee is provided by the government. For certain loans, up to 80% guarantee. For certain loans, up to 85% guarantees are provided by the government through this trust. Through the trust, right? And thereby providing the safety or security for the loans will promote a more access to institutional loans for the micro and small enterprises. For the micro and small enterprises. And please remember this, I forgot to tell you one point. Mudra Yojana, CGT, MSC, etc. These are generally established under certain institutions. For example, in case of Mudra Yojana, this is established under SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. SIDBI stands for Small Industries Development Bank of India. SIDBI. Under SIDBI, we have set up Mudra. Okay. Next point, public procurement policy. Public procurement policy. What is this public procurement policy? The central government, the ministries under the central government, right? The departments or even public sector organizations of the central government, whenever they procure from the market, I repeat, whenever they procure from the market, certain percentage of procurement shall be done from micro and small enterprises. I'll repeat the statement here. The central government ministry or a department or an organization undertaking, whenever they procure from the market, 25% of it they shall procure from the micro and small enterprises. Sir, what do you mean by procurement? Please do let me know. Public sector organizations such as, let's say, Coal India Limited, will they purchase something from the market? Think of it, right? Power sector companies owned by Government of India, will they procure from the market? Procure means purchasing. Very simple idea. Procure means purchasing. So when they procure from the market, annually 25% of their procurement, they will do it from micro and small enterprises itself. Okay, right? That is the concept of public procurement policy. Earlier it was 20%. Now it has been made 25%. Earlier it was 20%, and now it has been made at 25%. And within this also, again, if the micro enterprises is owned by, right, let's say women, right, preference will be given to them. Certain amount of this will be procured from MSCs which are owned by women. Certain amount will be procured from MSCs owned by SC/ST population. In order to provide certain welfare, that component is also there under the concept of public procurement policy. Next one is a trades system. Right? Do you remember the trade system? Let me know. Sir, where have you discussed a trade system? Financial market. Please go to financial market. We have discussed all of it. Right? Trade system wherein e-discounting. MSMEs can go for e-discounting. Next, taxation reform. Government has reduced corporate taxes. Right? Earlier, corporate tax was more than 30%. Now it is 22 plus assesses and surcharges. Is it not going to benefit MSME sector? Because the tax burden for the MSMEs will be lower. Priority sector lending loans, PSL loans. Under PSL, MSME sector also gets loans. So PSL loans will also provide certain comfort to the MSME sector. And finally, pre-pack insolvency resolution process. Pre-pack insolvency resolution process, PIRP, pre-pack insolvency resolution process. Now, this concept of pre-pack insolvency resolution process, let me explain it. Follow this very carefully. Follow this very carefully. This is the last point. After this, right, let's see what we can do. Either we can take up questions or we can discuss the previous year questions. So corporate tax rate is 22%. Please understand. Yes, corporate tax rate is 22%. But please tell me, in many of the, let's say, newspapers, etc., have you come across corporate tax rate of 25.17%? Let me know. If you're reading newspapers correctly, you will come across this. Rather than saying 22%, they will say corporate tax rate is 25.17%. If you don't trust me, check it in Google. They will give you 25.17%. Some of you will be confused. You will say, but sir, you said 22, but website says 25.17%. Why? What is the reason? Reason is simple. Whatever they say 22%, they will call this as a base rate. Base means only corporate tax. But in addition to this, government will also collect cesses and surcharges. Correct? Government will impose and collect cesses. So if you add the component of cesses, it will actually take the effective corporate tax rate to 25.17%. All of you okay with this? On paper, tax rate is 22. But when you add cesses, it will drag it up to 25.17%. Right? So cesses and surcharges will drag it up to 25.17%. So this is effective. This is the card rate or base rate. Now, what is this pre-pack insolvency resolution process? Please tell me, do you remember corporate insolvency resolution process? Think of it. Please tell me, do you remember corporate insolvency resolution process? In short, CIRP. In short, this is nothing but CIRP. Now, in case of CIRP, can the owner end up losing the ownership of the company? I hope you remember this. Can the owner end up losing the ownership of the company under CIRP? Yes, owners can end up losing the ownership of the company. But in case of micro enterprise, think of this. In case of micro enterprise, do you think there is a huge demand for purchasing micro enterprises in the market? Think rationally. Do you think there's a huge demand? Because what is the investment? 1 crore rupee. Don't you think if a bigger company, some of you are saying yes, no, there is no demand for purchasing for micro enterprises in the market. Sir, what if somebody else want to purchase? My dear, if they are also micro enterprise, they are also limited by investment. And bigger companies, they are not focused on micro enterprises. Why? Investment is very limited. Investment is very limited, 1 crore rupee. Do you think Tata company will be focused on buying micro enterprises in India? No. Investment is very limited. Scope of growth is very limited. So they are not focused on this. But the point is very simple. Do not complicate. The demand for these micro enterprises from the buyer side is very limited in the market. Now imagine there's a micro enterprise owned by me. I took a loan from you. I did not repay it. Now it becomes an NPA, non-performing asset. You will drag me to NCLT. Now, right, the committee of creditors want to sell it, want to sell my company to somebody else. If there are no buyers in the market, will it not go for liquidation? Let me know. If there are no buyers in the market, will it not go for liquidation? And even after liquidating a micro enterprise, how much recovery will you make? Right? Again, think of what is a micro enterprise. Please keep that in the mind. Please keep that in the mind. You're not talking about liquidating Tata company. You're not talking about liquidating a Reliance company. You're talking about a micro enterprise. How much recovery will you make? Very, very low. So argument is, can we use corporate insolvency resolution process for micro enterprises or MSME sector? That might lead to a lot of liquidation and recovery to be very low. That is the reason a new system has been proposed. Now it is 2 years since the implementation. PIRP, Pre-Pack Insolvency Resolution Process. Pre-Pack Insolvency Resolution Process. What will happen in pre-pack insolvency resolution process? Very simple. You are a lender, I am a borrower. You are a creditor, I am a debtor. So, if I am unable to repay the loan, rather than taking me to NCLT, look at the term pre-pack. Right? What do you understand by the term pre-pack? Right? Prepaid, pre-pack, all of this. Pre-pack, can I say before, earlier only? I hope you understand. Before or earlier. That is, even before you go to NCLT, you will come to an arrangement with me. I'll repeat it again. Please understand this carefully. I have taken a loan from you. I was not able to repay it. It has become an NPA. Now, even before you go to NCLT and file a complaint against me, you will come to an agreement, you will come to an arrangement with me as to how I will be repaying the loan. That is called as a pre-pack. All of you are okay with this? That is called as a pre-pack. And once this agreement is signed between us, you will take the agreement to NCLT, file the agreement at NCLT, NCLT will accept the agreement. This process is called as a pre-pack insolvency resolution process. Now, please tell me, in pre-pack insolvency resolution process, can we say owner will continue to have ownership over the company? Even though we are going for a resolution process, can I say owner will continue to have ownership? Some of you are saying no. Did you not listen to the example? Did you not listen to the example? Right? If you are not listening, then you will give a wrong answer. Owner will not lose ownership. They will continue to have ownership. This process is called as a pre-pack insolvency resolution process. Not very famous in India. Hardly 2 to 3 cases have taken under PIRP. Hardly 2 to 3 cases have happened under PIRP. Why? Let me give you the answer. Imagine you are the bank manager. You approved for a micro enterprise loan. You approved PIRP. Now, don't you think in the future there can be investigation against you? Let me know. Right? Think of it. Today, you have approved a pre-pack. Right? My micro enterprises, I've taken a loan. You have approved a pre-pack. In the future, can a Chief Vigilance Commission, CVC, can they investigate against you? Can they basically say you approved it because the other person was your friend? You have taken a lot of money there. There is bribe involved. There is a corruption involved. That's the reason the company, the bank has incurred a loss because of you, etc., etc. So the bank managers are petrified. Literally speaking, the bank managers are concerned about PIRP because they are saying, I will approve PIRP today for a micro enterprise, and maybe after 2 years, 3 years, maybe after 4 years, or after retirement, right? Some agency might come behind me and say there is a corruption there. Right? That is the reason banks are not willing to use PIRP. They are going for CIRP. Is the logic okay? But remember one more important difference here. What is the time process? What is the maximum time limit under CIRP? Let me check how many of you have remembered this. How many of you are revising? What is the time period, maximum time period allowed under CIRP? Please let me know. What is the maximum time period? 330 days. Some of you are saying 2 years. No, my dear. And not 1 year, not 2 year, not 4 year. As per the law, 330 days. Some of you are saying 180. No, 330. That is the updated number. Please remember this. Whereas in case of PIRP, it is 120 days. In case of PIRP, the whole process has to be completed in 120 days. Right? So that is basically the proposal that has been implemented, by the government. Not very famous. Banks are concerned. Many of them are not even touching PIRP because they are concerned about future investigations. Okay, so these are certain very important reforms associated with the MSME sector. So we'll stop the discussion today here. We'll take up a couple of more concepts. We'll discuss questions on this as well as questions on agriculture sector later, right? That is in the next class. Okay, done. So any questions from your side? Any questions from your side? Otherwise, we'll close the discussion for today. Repeat CIRP. My dear, CIRP, if you ask me to repeat, right, we took half an hour to discuss CIRP. Remember, we took half an hour to discuss CIRP. How can I repeat half an hour now? Right? Some of the things that you kind of ask are unreasonable. Right? CIRP process is simple. The lender creditor will go to the NCLT, file an application. And by the way, please let me know when we discussed CIRP. I'm asking a question now. When we discussed CIRP, did I say one of the problem with the CIRP is that time taken for admission of application is very long in India? Please do let me know. Right? I'll repeat the statement. This was there in the current affairs, by the way. This was there in the current affairs. Time taken for admitting the application is very high. In some of the cases, I said more than 100 days. And I said because it is more than 100 days, the whole CIRP process is getting elongated like this. Very recently in the Mint newspaper, there is an article on this. I don't know whether I've given this or not, but you can check it online. Very recently in the Mint newspaper, there is an article on this. That is, Government of India wants to reduce the time period that is taken for reducing for acceptance or rejection of application at the first stage itself. It is not there, but you can check it online. Please check it online. They want to reduce it. It's more than 100 days in many cases. They want to reduce it. Okay. So NCLT will take up the application, then committee of creditors will be formed, then right either the asset will be sold or right will be liquidated. PIRP again, I'll repeat it again. In case of pre-pack insolvency resolution process, the creditor and the borrower will enter into repayment agreement. They will come to an understanding regarding repayment, and then we will take this up with NCLT, submit this proposal to NCLT, which will approve it. The whole process has to happen within 120 days. Right? And again, please understand, there's a concept of a Swiss challenge model, etc., etc. That is not needed. But the whole object of PIRP is, right, the owner is allowed an option. There is an option for the owner to retain ownership. There is an option. The owner is allowed to retain ownership. Right? That is basically the objective of PIRP. CPSC, explain again in short. What do you want me to explain in CPSC? CPSC is standing for Central Public Sector Enterprise. What should I explain in Central Public Sector Enterprise? Is it a concern of globalization if labor from other countries work in India, it will create unemployment in India? Of course, yes. Of course, it is a concern, right? Don't you think Brexit happened because of this only? Let me know. Don't you think one of the reason why Brexit happened, right, is because of this only? Because agreements were signed, labor could move from one country to another country within European Union. Right? As a result of this, the British citizens were concerned that they are losing jobs to somebody else. So they opposed and forced having a Brexit. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Sir, bank provides a loan as a collateral security. What do you mean by that? I'm unable to understand. Right? What do you mean by that? Please let me know. I'm unable to understand. What is viability gap funding? We'll take it up next week. Arey Baba, we are yet to discuss. 5 more classes are there. Have patience, no? Everybody wants me to discuss everything right now. How is that possible? Right? Right place, right time. We'll discuss viability of funding. Is there any link between liberalization and globalization? Of course, yes. If a country goes for liberalization, or else let me ask you this. Can you go for globalization without having liberalization policy? Let me know. Can government of India promote globalization with all the controls in the economy? No. First, you will have to deregulate. You will have to withdraw your regulations. Only then you can promote globalization. Okay. Done then. We'll stop the discussion today here. We'll continue the discussion next week. Monday, we'll continue the discussion sharp 6 a.m. Please read the articles that have been given to you. Right? You can get it either in the complete PPT or separately also. Right? The link has been provided to you. Do not make the mistake of not reading it. It is for your benefit. Read it. So that's it from my side for today as well as this week. We'll meet again next week. Right? So next week will be your last week classes. All the 5 days we are going to have economics. We are going to complete the remaining chapters next week. Okay, so take care. See you again next week. Have a great weekend.